Chapter 292 Invincible. Chapter 292, Invincible. You are going to let us remain under this lake forever? The voices from the 10 people who wore abyss masks sounded. The waters in the lake were in turmoil and bodies were moving in the lake. The scene was astonishing and everyone was shocked. All the people looked at the 10 men who wore abyss masks and couldn't help but gasp. Can it be that these 10 people have annihilated all the dark conjurers? I didn't expect the nest of the dark conjurers to be under a lake in the Dongling mountain range. What's more surprising is that they were annihilated by the abyss who just emerged. Sacred Soul Sect. What will they do? Continue to be domineering? Do they dare? The group of forces was discussing fervently. Eventually, their attention slowly fell in the direction of the Sacred Soul Sect. The disciples and experts of the Sacred Soul Sect were breaking out in cold sweat. Fear gleamed in their eyes. At this moment, they did not have the airs of a sacred sect or the dominance they had displayed towards all the other forces previously. Facing the 10 unknown experts who were able to destroy the dark conjurers, even those from the Sacred Soul Sect didn't dare to be brazen. At the thought of the 20-odd experts who were killed without putting up resistance, they felt a chill down their spines. There were 4 inborn experts and over 20 half-step to inborn experts among the group. The group was powerful enough to warrant special attention from the Sacred Soul Sect. Misunderstanding, it was just a misunderstanding. We were wrong previously. It's our mistake and we will leave immediately. The expression of one of the experts from the Sacred Soul Sect changed rapidly. He took a deep breath and bowed. Subsequently, the expert gestured to the disciples of the Sacred Soul Sect and left immediately. Wang Xian watched them leave without saying a word. Damn, the Sacred Soul Sect left. That's equivalent to admitting defeat. What else did you expect? For them to fight these people? This is a group that can annihilate the dark conjurers. Even the Sacred Soul Sect needs to be careful when dealing with them. That's right, even a sacred sect had a hard time dealing with dark conjurers previously. When the killing order from the sacred sect was issued, the entire sacred sect was activated to attack the dark conjurers. Even though the dark conjurers didn't dare to show themselves, 2 elders from the sacred sect were assassinated during the siege. The Sacred Soul Sect was still acting high and mighty previously. Right now, they can only admit defeat and even give up on the Heavenly Hound. I don't know if the Abyss has the strength that matches those of a sacred sect. The crowd looked at the Sacred Soul Sect who was leaving and then at the 10 people with the Abyss masks, and eventually the Heavenly Hound. The Heavenly Hound stood in the lake without moving as it was surrounded. It didn't dare to escape. It stood on the lake, licking its wounds and staring at its surroundings coldly. Come here. Wang Xian shouted to the Heavenly Hound. He looked across the crowd before looking towards the Heavenly Hound, which was not far away. After which, he spread his dragon power over the Heavenly Hound. Woof woof. The Heavenly Hound let out a deep howl before looking at Wang Xian fearfully. His intelligence has manifested. Wang Xian looked joyously at the Heavenly Hound and revealed a smile. Woof. The Heavenly Hound barked again and walked slowly towards Wang Xian. Not bad. Wang Xian smiled and caressed the Heavenly Hound's head. At the same time, he injected the energy of the Azure Dragon into it to treat its wounds. Woof woof. The Heavenly Hound stuck out its tongue and licked Wang Xian's hand before rubbing its head against him. Damn. Comparing only makes one feel inferior. We worked so hard in the Dongling mountain range for over a week and couldn't subdue it. Yet, he simply waved his hands and the Heavenly Hound ran over to him. Everyone here feels the same way. Even the Sacred Soul Sect worked hard for a long time for it. This Heavenly Hound is also fearful of the strong. We tried to lure it and it simply ignored us. Now it ran over to that guy who just waved at it. The crowd was speechless. For this inborn realm level Heavenly Hound, they had worked hard for several days and paid a huge price. In the end, they only got a few strands of dog's fur. However, the masked man just waved his hands and the Heavenly Hound ran over. Comparison indeed made one feel inferior. Search the information. Also, comb the base of the dark conjurers. Wang Xian tapped the Heavenly Hound's head and ordered Mo Qinglong and group. Yes, young master. The group nodded and replied. Wang Xian moved and arrived at the bottom of the lake with the Heavenly Hound. The glass under the lake had broken and the base was flooded. Only the outline of the base remained. The Heavenly Hound was protected by the water attribute energy. It looked curiously around him and barked a few times. Wang Xian let out a smile as he moved to the two blood pythons. The two inborn realm blood pythons were bred by the dark conjurers through witchcraft. They didn't have intelligence and only had bloodthirst. This type of animal did not have potential and it would be hard for them to evolve again. However, once they were able to manifest their intelligence and cleanse their bloodline, they could evolve again. From blood pythons into serpents and finally into divine dragons. Wang Xian kept the two blood pythons mainly to subdue them to become his subordinates. Submit. Wang Xian moved his finger and 2 drops of essence blood fell onto the head of the blood pythons for them to absorb. The 2 blood pythons were severely injured and couldn't resist it as they absorbed the essence blood directly. SSSSSSSSS. As they absorbed the essence blood into their bodies, the pythons spat balls of blood out. This blood was dark and sticky with corrosive nature. Pythons have the attributes of earth. I shall impart to you the cultivation method of the earth divine dragon. Wang Xian thought to himself as he etched the cultivation arts directly into the minds of the pythons. Afterwards, Wang Xian looked at the heavenly hound and forced out a drop of his essence blood too. Woof woof. The heavenly hound barked. It stared hard at the drop of blood on Wang Xian's finger before flicking out its tongue and absorbing it. This rascal. Wang Xian smiled but frowned shortly after. He was bewildered as he looked at the heavenly hound. What's going on? He was astonished as he stared at the heavenly hound. Woof. In the beginning, the heavenly hound was still staring at Wang Xian. However, its body started to shiver violently as if it was experiencing a seizure. Woo woo woo. Deep cries of agony sounded. Its fur became more lustrous and had a faint glow to it. Gradually, the heavenly hound stopped crying. The heavenly hound shook its head lightly and rubbed his head against Wang Xian enthusiastically. This is? Wang Xian realized that when the heavenly hound moved, its fur stood up like wings. He touched the heavenly hound's body and realized that there was flesh growing in places where the fur was longer. A hound with wings? This rascal assimilated my bloodline to strengthen its bloodline. Wang Xian was shocked as he looked at the hound and fell into deep thought. Chapter 293, To the Fore on a Python. Chapter 293, To the Fore on a Python. During this period, Wang Xian had gained some understanding of his essence blood of the divine dragon. The essence blood was able to assimilate the bloodlines of most living organisms. But it also had a limitation. It was unable to assimilate bloodlines with a grade higher than itself, or those coming from an organism with stronger powers. Amongst all living organisms, the bloodline of the divine dragon was considered as the apex. Yet, as the current abilities of Wang Xian were still too weak, the energy stored in his essence blood remained low. Hence, the attempt to replace bloodlines of a relatively high grade would impose some difficulty. As for the experts whose abilities far supersede Wang Xian's, not only would his essence blood be unable to evolve the party's bloodline, it would be absorbed by the party for energy intake. For the divine dragon which leads the pinnacle, a drop of its blood was enough to turn an ordinary creature into a powerful monster instantly. It appears that this heavenly hound possesses an extraordinary bloodline. Wang Xian exclaimed as he stared at the hound, slightly taken aback. This heavenly hound happened to be the first, which was able to absorb Wang Xian's essence blood and convert it as energy intake. But even so, the essence blood contained the consciousness of Wang Xian. Hence this heavenly hound would still be under his control, having absorbed his essence blood. The abilities of the heavenly hound would have to reach a substantial level before it could free itself from Wang Xian's control. By which, Wang Xian's abilities would also improve immensely as well. Young master, we've got hold of the information. But most of the things have been completely destroyed along with the death of the dark conjurers. Wang Xian was told as Mo Qinglong approached together with Mo Yuan and others. Did you find information on the missions as ordered by the dark conjurers? Wang Xian asked in response. After all, they had come to annihilate the dark conjurers for a reason. Mainly to find the culprit who ordered to have Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi killed. Yes, we did, Mo Qinglong and the rest replied. Good. Let's return then. Wang Xian nodded back. In quick shuffles they surfaced from the lake. Swoosh. 2 giant pythons, each reaching between 15 to 16 meters in length, followed closely behind. With thick and muscular bodies, the serpents imposed terror. Come on. Let's head for the seaside. Wang Xian gestured to Mo Qinglong and the rest. As he did so, he hopped onto the crown of a python's head. The head of one giant python measured 2 meters across, which could hold a person standing atop comfortably. Whereas Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and the remaining stood on the python's body instead. Measuring between 15 to 16 meters, these giant pythons would more than suffice in transporting the 10 men. On the other hand, the heavenly hound appeared somewhat fearful, as it skipped gently over to Wang Xian's side. Go! Wang Xian instructed the two pythons. TSK TSK. The serpents hissed, tongues of over a meter sticking out as they did. Nodding their heads in acknowledgement, they glided at charging speeds. By then, the troop forces who were previously at the lake's side had long gone. There was no one in sight. The giant pythons were no less imposing in size even as they glided amidst vast mountains. Bringing down trees 7 to 8 meters in height, they eventually went past mountains and across rivers. And they continued surging forward in an imposing strike. Impressive yet domineering all at once. Meanwhile, disciples of the various forces who had just left chatted casually as they walked on the mountain. Sigh. It would have been great if only we'd gotten hold of the heavenly hound. Imagine riding on it for leisure. How impressive would that be? One imagined. You riding the heavenly hound? Why don't you check on your powers? Even if it was captured, do you think a heavenly hound of the inborn level would allow itself to be ridden at will? Even if an inborn expert wished to have a ride, the hound may not concede to it. Another retorted. Then should I wait for the heavenly hound to give birth, and ride on one of the puppies after raising it myself? Aha! The former teased. Upon hearing the disciples' conversation, a few experts walking in front laughed. When inborn beings reproduce, the bloodline of its offsprings will thin. Even so, its abilities would not weaken significantly. Should it display symptoms of reversed evolution, it may even grow up to become an inborn, one explained. Which explains why so many powerful forces are out to vie for one inborn-level creature. Mainly to get hold of them for their offspring. Another chipped in. But, inborn beings possess an innate arrogance. Unless one has been raised from youth, it would be very tough for anyone who wishes to ride on one. A third added. Boom boom. The elders had just finished, when a series of sounds echoed from a distance behind them. It sounded horrifying, as though a tank had bulldozed past the grounds and was charging towards them. Watch out, an expert amongst the sex warned. His forehead trickled cold sweat as he sensed the force of terror coming for them. Out of the way, quick! Out of the way! The crowd shouted. They spun around and looked behind with vigilance. Just then 2 gigantic creatures appeared. Crowned with hideous heads and creepy eyes, they stuck out barn-red tongues from their wide mouths. Goodness! A female disciple cried out. She looked on eyes wide. With a stupefied face she yelled, Up there! There are people up there! Giant pythons. Terrifying giants. Out to trample everything. Some of her fellows lamented. This is unbelievable, more said. The abyss. It's the abyss. And the heavenly hound. They continued. The 2 giant pythons were charging at top speed along with the 10 men riding on them. As Wang Xian heard the ruckus, he turned around, revealing a faint smile. Meanwhile, the heavenly hound exuded an air which overpowered the nearby crowd. Woof woof. Howl. It barked excitedly at the onlooking crowd, even mimicking a fox and ending off with a howl. How awe-inspiring. Filled with envy, the crowd of disciples looked on at the group of python riders that just went past. What the? That's so awesome. Riding to the fore on a python, how cool is that? An onlooker squealed. When will it be that I achieve that? Another yelped. Those are no doubt true experts, sighed the experts amongst the crowd, even as they were of the same status themselves. Hence, with 10 people on board, the 2 giant pythons raced straight ahead towards the Dongling mountain range. Along the way, martial artists from different sects simply stared when they came across the spectacular sight, faces filled with astonishment. Carrying all aboard, the giant pythons dived into the sea. Wang Xian transformed into a divine dragon, and together the group made their way towards River Town. After 5 hours, Wang Xian arrived at the villa's doorstep. Overwhelmed in excitement, the heavenly hound shook off the seawater on its body and proceeded to check out its surroundings. Despite its moderate size, the hound boasted greater intelligence. Let's go, Mo Yuan said. He then took his leave with the 7 Dragonians, leaving Wang Xian and Mo Qinglong to return to the villa. Young master, let me go look up information on the murderer, Mo Qinglong reported. With a hard drive in hand, he proceeded to enter a computer room. All information on the dark conjurers was stored on a desktop. Wang Xian nodded in approval before plunking onto the sofa, looking all laid back. Woof woof. As it strolled around, curious about its surroundings, the heavenly hound let out a bark. Come over here. Could you transform your appearance a little? Wang Xian said to the hound as he waved to it. The appearance of the heavenly hound was known by many. Should it be discovered here, it would be easy for others to figure out its ties with the abyss. Woof woof. The heavenly hound barked in response before its fur started to change in color, turning all gold. Chapter 294, Hold the Plane and Move, 1. Chapter 294, Hold the Plane and Move, 1. Xiao Xian has been away for several days and is finally back. I wonder, did he bring any beautiful girls back this time? Every time he returns he brings one back. At 5 in the evening, Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue's voices sounded from outside the house. Wang Xian, who was drinking tea and lying on the sofa in the living room, was speechless. Brother? Xiao Yu shouted as she entered through the door. Your brother is here. Wang Xian stood up and answered with a smile as he saw the 4 beauties walking in. Wah! Xiao Yu and the girls shouted in amazement and hurried over. Wang Xian smiled gently as the side of his mouth lifted. He thought his charm had gotten stronger. What a beautiful dog. It is so cute. Look at its eyes. They're glittering. It must be a smart dog. Its fur is so smooth and feels so great. The 3 of them were surprised and delighted as they caressed the heavenly hound. Even Elder Fang bent down and was looking at the dog lovingly. Wang Xian felt aggrieved. He didn't expect to be less popular than a dog. Woof woof. Heavenly hound barked twice and squinted its eyes. It remained stationary and allowed the girls to touch him. Cough cough. Did you guys miss me? Wang Xian coughed as he squeezed out a smile. Hee, brother. You've been running around every day. It's great that you still know to come back. Perhaps the world outside is much more exciting. Xiao Yu and Guan Shuqing mocked at him. Wang Xian laughed it off and said, I went out to settle some things. Look at this big family. I need to work hard to feed all of you. TSK excuses. Although Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue were still mocking and grumbling about him, it was clear that they had missed him after not seeing him for several days. The group sat on the sofa and chatted. My dear disciple, has school ended? Soon the voice of Sui Huang came from outside, after which the group saw him walking in with Xiao Ran. Master. Guan Shuqing greeted with a bright smile. Oh, brother Wang Xian is back. Sui Huang greeted Wang Xian when he saw him. Sui Huang had a bright smile on his face. Yeah, Wang Xian replied with a nod. Master. Xiao Ran greeted and walked over joyously. At this moment, Sui Huang was shocked to see the heavenly hound lying in a corner. Hey brother, it seems like you got something good on this trip? Inborn Realm Heavenly Hound has only appeared once in history. He stared at the heavenly hound and spoke with a smile. Woof woof. The heavenly hound barked at him ferociously when it heard his words. It was apparent that the heavenly hound, who had intelligence, disliked what the Sui Huang had said. I was just lucky. Wang Xian replied with a smile. Xiao Yu and the group were shocked as they looked at the heavenly hound. Their eyes widened as they asked, this dog is an inborn realm existence. Yes. Wang Xian smiled and replied with a nod. He then looked at Xiao Yu and Guan Shuqing and said, the dog is an inborn realm existence and I won't be giving it to you guys. Instead, I will give it to Qingyue and let the heavenly hound stay by her side. At this point, Xiao Yu's strength was considerably good. As for Guan Shuqing, she had Sui Huang with her and thus wouldn't be in any danger. As for Lan Qingyue, even though her 8 extraordinary meridians were cleared, she was still rather weak. Having the heavenly hound to protect her would make Wang Xian feel more assured. Is it true? Lan Qingyue was ecstatic when she heard Wang Xian. She looked at Wang Xian with affectionate eyes. Of course. Wang Xian smiled. Xiao Yu and Guan Shuqing both smiled and didn't say anything. Among the 3 of them, only Lan Qingyue needed to be protected. That's great. What's its name? Heavenly Hound isn't a good name. I will call it Tian Tian. Not bad, not bad. Lan Qingyue walked beside the heavenly hound happily and started rubbing its head. She was overjoyed. Oh yes, disciple. Now that brother Wang Xian is here, could you go to the capital with me? Asked Sui Huang. The objective of going to the capital was to hold the disciple acceptance ceremony for the Sui family. As a family with a deep history, taking in a disciple was a matter of importance. The ceremony was also seen as extremely important. It was especially so for someone of Sui Huang's level. At the same time, this would be a significant event for the Sui family. The strongest man in the Sui family would be taking in his last disciple. Seeing Guan Shuqing looking at him, Wang Xian nodded in agreement. Since Sui Huang would like to have a disciple acceptance ceremony, he had no qualms with it. "I will go with you when the time arrives," said Wang Xian. He looked at Xiao Yu and Lan Qingyue who were at the side and asked, "Do you all want to go to Shangjing to have fun for a few days?" "That would be great. That was what we are thinking too." Xiao Yu and Lan Qingyue nodded in agreement immediately. They had smiles written all over their faces. "All right, old Sui, when will we go over?" Wang Xian asked with a smile. "Tomorrow? I have chosen an auspicious time and date. Let's head to Shangjing first," replied Sui Huang with a bright smile. "All right. In that case we will set off tomorrow morning. I haven't been to Shangjing before. Let's enjoy ourselves in the capital," said Wang Xian while nodding his head. "Ah, in the capital you guys can play all you want. That's my territory and everyone will have to show me some respect. Xiaoqing, as my disciple you can do whatever you wish in Shangjing," Sui Huang said with dominance. He looked at Wang Xian and lifted his head slightly. It's about time he showed this rascal what he was capable of. The group was conversing happily as Wang Xian brought Xiao Ran to the side to assess his strength. To his astonishment, Xiao Ran had reached level 8 martial artist over this period of time. That was an astonishing pace. However, when he heard that all the spiritual medicine was used by Sui Huang, he felt a little speechless. As an alchemist, Sui Huang had made use of elixir pills to help Xiao Ran and Guan Shuqing improve their level. This old man still has his own methods. Wang Xian was glad. Even he could not improve a person's strength this rapidly. The next day morning Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing, Xiao Yu and Lan Qingyue followed Sui Huang to the capital. "The ceremony will be held tomorrow. Xiaoqing, you should get ready. The process is simple and is mainly to announce to the rest that I'll be taking a disciple. When you reach Shangjing today you can enjoy yourself as you want. There are a lot of interesting places in Shangjing." Sui Huang happily lay down on his seat in the plane as he smiled and spoke to Guan Shuqing. He was glad to be able to take a disciple like her. Finally he had someone to pass his skills down to. This was also a form of insurance for his Sui family. "Yes, master." Guan Shuqing smiled and answered. The distance between River Town and Shangjing wasn't far. It would just take 2 hours by plane. Boom. However, when the plane was approaching the Shangjing airport, a loud explosion erupted. Chapter 295, Hold the plane and move 2. Chapter 295, Hold the plane and move 2. Boom. DDD. Wang Xian and the gang were lying down, taking a rest on the plane when a buzzing sound was heard unexpectedly. Soon after, the emergency alarm went off on the plane. What's going on? What happened? What happened? Why did the alarm go off suddenly? Did we meet with some extreme weather? The passengers stood up immediately, looking panicky as they asked the air stewardess beside them as loud as they could. "Fasten your seatbelt. Please fasten your seatbelt and stay calm." There was slight anxiety in her eyes, but she calmed herself down and yelped at the top of her lungs. Bam bam bam. At this time, a louder grinding sound was heard while the plane rocked twice again. "Please fasten your seatbelts. We're in an emergency situation and we're in the midst of resolving it. All passengers, please stay calm." Just then the entire plane was filled with the voice of the flight attendants. "Hurry, stop them now." At the same time 4 to 5 security personnel on the plane sprinted past Wang Xian and the gang's seats, looking appalled. "What's the matter, hijacking?" Wang Xian sat up puzzledly as he peered towards the back. They were sitting in the first-class seats, and there should be more first-class seats in the back. He looked over his shoulder at Sui Huang. Boom. Just then another booming sound was heard again. "Ah, are we going to be all right? What the hell is going on?" The passengers were screaming in horror from the front. "Someone is fighting on the plane." When Sui Huang heard the sound, his expression changed slightly as he unfastened his seatbelt immediately with a sullen face. "You guys stay here while old Sui and I will check it out." Wang Xian immediately stood up and spoke to Xiao Yu and the rest. Okay. Those girls were wondering as they peered at the back. Gentlemen, please go back. We'll take care of this and we'll settle it soon. When the air stewardess saw them standing up, she quickly told them this anxiously. We'll just take a look. Old Sui took out an identification card emotionlessly and showed it to the air stewardess. She was stunned as soon as she saw the identification card. Yes, Chief Leader. Her? Wang Xian peered over with a bizarre look. That red identification card seemed terrific. If you want one, I can get you one next time. Upon seeing Wang Xian's puzzled look, a smile surfaced on Sui Huang's face. Let's go. Wang Xian shook his head and continued his way in. Get lost, I must kill him today. When they arrived at another first-class cabin, a figure suddenly flew over. There was no change in Wang Xian's expression. He even reached out to catch the security personnel who spat out blood from his mouth. Thinking of killing me? Since I dared to kill your son, I can even kill you now. Haha, come over and kill me. A bossy voice, accompanied by daunting oppression, was heard. Another pained shriek was heard. Boom. Another loud bang was heard, sending the entire plane rocking violently. An air stewardess even stumbled to the side. There was a slight change in Sui Huang's expression. When the two of them went in, they realized two experts were fighting on the plane. The entire first-class cabin was in a disastrous state. Two commoners were knocked down on the floor at the side with their faces covered in blood. No one was sure if they were dead or alive. The security personnel on the plane were all lying on the floor. There were another 7 to 8 men around the two experts, confronting each other. On one side of the plane, a strong gust of wind was entering through two fist-sized holes. It was looking the worst in the cockpit. Both the pilot and the co-pilot were flying the plane in extreme fear. Boom. As they entered, the two inborn experts started another round of intense fighting again. Ka. The plane could not take the magnitude of the power exhibited by two inborn experts. As such, the hole began to tear even wider. It became a 2.5-meter wide hole with strong wind rushing in, causing the entire plane to shake violently. Back in the cockpit, several flight attendants fell to the ground. The mightiness of an inborn expert was not something an average person could withstand. Stop it. Sui Huang swept his gaze across everyone in the plane with a somber expression. He encompassed the duo with his inborn oppression. What? The duo in the battle was taken aback as they quickly spun around and looked at Sui Huang. How dare you duel on the plane? Are you tired of living? Sui Huang walked over to the duo with darkened expressions. Scram. One of the middle-aged men bellowed at Sui Huang with bloodshot eyes. Soon after, he turned to another middle-aged man. If I'm going to die today, I'll make sure to drag you down along with me. You alone? Trying to drag me with you? Hee, since you struck on the plane this time, you're doomed. Another skinny middle-aged man quirked his lips and looked at him soberly. You struck too. Even if I cannot kill you, you'll die too. So long as you're dead, my revenge is made. The middle-aged man said as he revealed a bitter smile on his face. A blood feud they had. My dad will not die. You'll die a horrible death instead. This trivial matter can be easily taken care of by the Feng family. The other middle-aged man did not reply, but a young man with a conceited look behind him spoke. Xiao Jing, he's a dying man. Ignore him. An old man spoke nonchalantly behind that skinny middle-aged man. Beside him stood another two elders. Three of them turned and looked at Sui Huang. Fine. I'll not mind a lunatic. If you continue, the entire plane is going down. Then I'll advise you to commit suicide by jumping off the plane. The skinny middle-aged man nodded with a smile as he stared at the middle-aged man in front of him without fear. Old Sui, I thought you were cocky? Why is everyone ignoring you? Wang Xian swept his gaze across the group of people. The two middle-aged men in a duel were inborn experts. Three old men behind the skinny middle-aged man were also inborn experts. I only returned to Shangjing twice or thrice in 20 years. Many people have forgotten about me. Eyes turned cold. Sui Huang had not displayed his full mightiness just now because he was afraid he might affect the electronic equipment in the aircraft. He slowly swept his gaze across the skinny middle-aged man and his gang. Feng family of Shangjing. I have heard of it before. I'll deal with this lad. But the rest of you deserve to die. Sui Huang looked at the five of them and spoke slowly. He had announced their sanctions immediately. After Sui Huang finished his sentence, the skinny middle-aged man turned to Sui Huang and said, "Her? Old fogey." Before he could finish his words, Sui Huang extended out his arm. 5 fiery palms immediately reached out and grabbed the skinny middle-aged man and the rest of the people behind him. For a long time, no one has dared to call me Sui Huang that. Chapter 296, Hold the Plane and Move 3. Chapter 296, Hold the Plane and Move 3. For a long time no one dared to call me Sui Huang that. Sui Huang remarked emotionlessly. After which, 5 palms made of flames grabbed their necks tightly. What? The skinny middle-aged man and the several old men behind him were instantly petrified. The palms made of flames appeared on their necks suddenly. They did not have any time to react to it. To their horror, they realized they couldn't break free from the palms. However, what really frightened them the most was what the old man had just said. Sui Huang. Sui Huang. He said his name was Sui Huang. All large families and sects would know what this name represented. That name belonged to one of the most horrifying old men in Shangjing. Sui Huang, how did we? Spare me your nonsense. Coldness gleamed in Sui Huang's eyes. When he moved his arm, the palms made of flames moved. Crack crack. The 5 men's eyes widened and were filled with disbelief. Their bodies trembled violently as they fell to the ground. They weren't even feeling remorseful at all. Bam. Read more chapter on novel full. Sui Huang, Sui Huang. The other middle-aged man mumbled. Suddenly, his eyes widened and he kneeled in front of Sui Huang. Thank you, Sui Huang. Thank you, Sui Huang. They are finally dead. I can now die without regrets. The middle-aged man was very agitated and his face was filled with tears. After which, he gritted his teeth and was about to smash his palm on his head. Bam. Sui Huang kicked his arms away to prevent him from committing suicide. He then said, "Whether you deserve death will be determined later. For now, seal the 2 holes for me." Yes, yes. Even if you want me dead now, I wouldn't grumble about it. That middle-aged man kneeled and kowtowed before Sui Huang. He stood up and waved his arms. Instantly, a stream of energy blocked the cracks of the plane. Brother Wang Xian, you are a miracle doctor. Can you help to treat the injured? Sui Huang asked Wang Xian after shooting the middle-aged man a death stare. All right. Wang Xian smiled and replied with a nod. This old fogey Sui Huang is pretty domineering. Wang Xian looked around him, squatted down and injected streams of azure dragon energy into those with injuries. Soon they recovered. Chief Leader, can you take a look at the pilots? They have lost consciousness. An aircrew member spoke to Sui Huang frantically. At this moment, the alarm system of the plane continued to sound. Let me take a look. Wang Xian replied as he walked over to the cockpit. The cockpit was damaged by the fight between the 2 sides and a large hole was left in it. The pilots had collapsed inside the cockpit. Wang Xian walked over and was stunned. He frowned, turned to Sui Huang and said, "They're beyond hope." What? Sui Huang was shocked and turned solemn. What? Sir, are they really beyond hope? The aircrew members and security asked in fear. They are gone. Wang Xian replied and shook his head. One of the aircrew members rushed to the controls and picked up the radio. Mayday. Mayday. Flight number A934J from Rivertown towards Shangjing. The pilots on board have encountered danger. Requesting immediate support. Mayday. Mayday. Flight number A934J from Rivertown towards Shangjing. The pilots on board have encountered danger. Requesting immediate support. The aircrew member was sweating as he called for help. This is bad. Soon that aircrew member pressed a few buttons and realized something had gone wrong. He shouted frantically, "The radio is out! The radio is out! There are problems with other action keys too. It's over! It's over!" That aircrew member became even more flustered as he shouted loudly. What's the matter? Sui Huang frowned and shouted, "Calm down. Hoo. The aircrew member took a few deep breaths and replied, "The pilot is dead and so is the secondary pilot. There's no one who can control the plane now. Furthermore, some equipment is damaged. We. Tears streamed down from his eyes as he spoke. Let me ask, an air stewardess said fearfully. She picked up the announcement system and said with a trembling voice, calling for all passengers. Our plane has encountered a major incident. Is there anyone who knows how to fly a plane? She continued, if there is, please come over to the cockpit immediately. This concerns the lives of everyone. The air stewardess repeated the announcement several times and her voice sounded throughout the plane. What? Who knows how to fly a plane? Who knows how to fly a plane? Get to the cockpit immediately. Oh gosh. The plane is diving downwards. Mom, I don't want to die. It's finished, it's finished. Who knows how to fly a plane? Please get to the cockpit quickly. The plane has deviated from its path and is slanting down now. I don't want to die, I still have a family. My children. When the passengers heard the air stewardess's announcement, panic broke out. However, no one stood up. In this era, a pilot wasn't common. Is there anyone who knows how to fly a plane? Please come to the cockpit immediately. We are facing a major crisis. The announcement sounded again. However, there was still no one who stood up. Panic started sprouting in everyone's heart. Make a call. Contact the headquarters to see if there are any signals. Sui Huang frowned and said. Mobile phones were prohibited on the plane. However, at this moment he couldn't care less. The high-speed movements will affect the signals. Nonetheless, we can give it a try. One of the aircrew members replied hurriedly. He then took out his phone and called. We are flight number A934J, we are experiencing a major incident, requesting for headquarters aid. The aircrew member called and shouted hurriedly. BZZ. BZZ. From the other end of the phone, an unstable buzzing noise sounded. It's not working. The signals are unstable when flying at high speeds. The message isn't getting through. This isn't working. It's over, it's over. We are just 3 minutes away from the airport. However, the plane is totally out of control and we can't possibly land it properly. The plane is going to crash. The emergency equipment is malfunctioning as well. Fear gripped the members of the aircrew as they shouted frantically. They were out of their means. Based on the current trend, the plane would be crashing. At this moment, the command center of Shangjing Airport had also realized that they had lost contact with Flight A934J. Leader, Flight A934J is still uncontactable. According to the normal flight schedule, they are just 3 minutes away from landing. Leader, we have turned on satellite tracking. We found a plane flying abnormally. Leader, we received an emergency call from Flight A934J. However, the voices were constantly interrupted and we couldn't hear anything. Hurry up. Lock down on their position with satellite and identify the problem they are facing. Continue to contact them. We definitely must establish contact with them. At this moment, the various leaders from the airline were commanding frantically. If something was to happen to the plane, the repercussions on the airline would be grave. If there were a lot of casualties, even the higher management of the airline would need to bear the responsibilities. Oh gosh, Flight A945J is totally out of control and is spiraling down, one of the staff members shouted desperately at this moment. All the management members from the airline looked up. A plane was barreling towards the ground at an astonishing speed. Everyone trembled and was frightened. Dear passengers, I would like to inform you of an unfortunate piece of news. The plane will crash in 3 minutes. We will try our best to force an emergency landing. Please pray for us. At this moment, a desolating piece of news was broadcasted through the announcement system. No, don't. How did this happen? How did this happen? I don't want to die. I want to make a call. I still have words for my wife and my children. The passengers screamed in fear. Some passengers turned on their phones and tried to convey their last words to their loved ones. The air stewardesses did not stop them. Instead, they did the same and started drafting their messages. They were in complete despair. Everyone felt hopeless. If the plane crashed, how many of them could possibly survive? Everyone in the cockpit squatted down in despair and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. These few rascals, only causing troubles for others. Sui Huang was gloomy and clenched his fist tightly. How far are we from the airport now? Wang Xian frowned and asked one of the air crews at the side. We are roughly 15 kilometers away. Boom. As the air crew spoke, the plane started turning. The group fell and rolled towards the far end. Over 10 kilometers. Wang Xian had a gloomy expression as he looked at the control system. He then pulled the red valve on the end. Rumble. With the propulsion system stopped, the plane fell straight down. Hey, old Sui. Let's give it a try. Wang Xian smiled as he spoke calmly to old Sui who was beside him. Sui Huang was stunned. Soon he nodded and smiled. If I was alone, I wouldn't be confident in doing this. Since it is the both of us, I am confident. All right then. Landing in Shangjing in this manner wouldn't be a great thing to look back at, said Wang Xian while shaking his head. After which, he smashed the window in front of him and jumped out of the plane. Landing in Shangjing in this manner will be the best way for you to remember your trip here. Sui Huang laughed and followed behind him. The two of them came to the bottom of the plane. They exchanged glances, smiled, stretched out their arms and slowly pushed against the plane. Chapter 297, Like God, Like Devil? Chapter 297, Like God, Like Devil. Boom. The plane whistled in the air as the entire 40-meter-long aircraft started crushing down uncontrollably. A booming, air-rending sound and the screams from passengers on the plane were heard all over the entire aircraft. Yet two soft bellows were coming from the bottom of the plane. Boom. Wang Xian and Sui Huang jerked their bodies, and two large pairs of wings sprang into action on their backs. Fiery red just like the color of the blood. Sui Huang's pair of wings that resembled lava stones emerged from both sides. As the two gigantic wings spread out, they spanned across around 10 meters which looked terrifying. A gentle flap would bring about freaky high temperatures. If it was not for his intended protection, the aircraft could have burst into flames. The wings behind Sui Huang were totally out of their league, compared with those experts of fire god denomination back then. Behind Wang Xian was a pair of fiery red wings too. The energy of the Dragon Ball could transform into a pair of dragon or phoenix wings. The huge wings may not be as big as Sui Huang's, but they had also reached 7 meters. Besides, the wings behind Wang Xian were more agile and flexible. Flapping them gently would exude the domineering power of Divine Dragon. Boom boom. Read more chapter on novel full. Both men raised their hands and exchanged a glance with smiles on their faces. Another booming sound from the aircraft was heard. But this time the plane stopped itself from crashing down. With the help of the two powerful forces, the plane came to an abrupt halt and eerily suspended itself in the air without moving. What's going on? Why did the plane stop moving? Did the plane recover? Is it fixed? Is the danger over? Is it over? At this moment, the flight passengers had no clue about what was going on under the plane when they witnessed such an incredible scene. Their eyes were agape. Some of them had tears on their faces as they asked in a panic. Even the staff on the plane was puzzled. Could it be that chief leader and that young man? Some of the staff were in a daze back in the cockpit. When the two of them had jumped out of the plane, they were feeling hopeless and had lost all concerns. Yet the plane had come to a halt strangely in the air. All of them could not help but gulp. We still have hope. The chief leader and that young man were powerful ancient martial artists. A glimmer of excitement flashed in the eyes of a staff member as he spoke, quivering. Yes, we're safe. We're safe. That's wonderful. Bravo. The staff in the cockpit began to look animated. Dear passengers, the plane is now stable. Do not panic, keep calm. We'll be landing safely. A flight attendant quickly consoled all the passengers in the cabin through the sound system. What? The plane is stable? Great. I thought I was going to die. Haha, wonderful. Wonderful. We're still alive. When the passengers heard the voice of the staff on the plane, they were zestful. The excitement of the aftermath was reflected in everyone's faces. Wow, strong and domineering prowess. Is this the strength of Sui Huang? The middle-aged inborn expert was using his power to block the hole in the first-class cabin. When he witnessed the gigantic fiery wings, he was astounded. Using their physical bodies, they lifted and secured the entire plane. Another 10 kilometers away. Let's go. With a shout from Wang Xian, Sui Huang made a swift move as he gazed ahead, flapping his wings slightly. Haha, go. The two of them carried the plane and slowly flew off. With the two people carrying an aircraft that weighed nearly 100 tons in the air, their speed was not fast, but maintained 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. Oh my God. Incredible. Crazy. This is crazy. All the staff stopped their work at the headquarters of Shangjing Airport as they were shocked to see what the satellite had captured on screen. Everyone, with their eyes wide open, stared at the monitor in disbelief. Two people with gigantic wings were carrying the entire aircraft in the air. Such a breathtaking scene that seemed godlike struck everyone dumbfounded. They were flying at an incredible speed even with the plane on their backs. Were they even humans? They were simply like a god or devil. The executives of high management of the airline back at the headquarters were staring blankly at the screen. Quick! Organize all the planes at the airport now to allow ample time for that plane to land. Hurry, get the staff to settle this. Also, get the security personnel and seal off the landing area of that plane. One of the executives quickly ordered the surrounding staff. Yes. Great. How wonderful to have powerful experts to carry the entire plane with their physical bodies. We managed to tide through this crisis. That's great. Some of the executives exclaimed elatedly and continued to give orders. Keep the radio on. Since the plane is now landing, get hold of A934J and ask what was going on, and contact the two mighty experts. Yes. The plane was propelled by the powerful force of Wang Xian and Sui Huang. 10 minutes later, Shangjing Airport appeared in front of them. People are guiding us below. Let's go down. Sui Huang peered somewhere below and saw a few staff members waving red flags, signaling to them. Go. Wang Xian made a swift move and the wings behind his back disappeared. If his wings were still around at this time, he would be in the limelight. Sui Huang also withdrew his pair of wings as they lifted the plane while walking in the air. Gulp. The surrounding security personnel and the airline executive below swallowed their saliva. Two experts supported an aircraft walking in the air. That seemed just like what deities would do. Boom. An aircraft that weighed 100 tons was put down gently on the runway by two experts as everyone watched astoundedly. Gosh, they're godlike humans. The airline executives ran towards them with fear and respect. They bowed their bodies as though they had met deities. Hello, two experts. Thank you very much. They did not know how to address them as they spoke frightfully. Okay, I'll leave you guys to handle the remaining matters. Sui Huang was impatient as he saw the people from the airline. He took out his red identification card and waved to them. What? When they saw that card, their eyes could not help but narrow. All the more respect they had for him. Yes, Chief Leader. The group of airline executives responded loudly in fear and trepidation. Chapter 298 Two Senior. Chapter 298, Two Senior. Xiao Xian. Master. Beside the plane, Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue had just alighted from the plane when they saw Wang Xian and Sui Huang. They immediately called out to them. Xiao Xian, what happened to the plane? The group of girls walked over and asked Wang Xian. Two inborn experts had a quarrel and implicated the pilots in the process. Wang Xian explained in a simplified manner. So that's what happened. I thought someone hijacked the plane, said Xiao Yu with a smile. Sui Huang. At this moment, the middle-aged man who'd had a conflict with the other inborn experts on the plane, rushed over and greeted Sui Huang with horror. I'll investigate this matter clearly. You can go back and wait for my updates, said Sui Huang plainly. Yes, Sui Huang. The middle-aged man nodded his head respectfully before leaving. Master, why is everyone calling you by your name? Guan Shuqing walked to her master and asked inquisitively. There's only one Sui Huang. Sui Huang chuckled proudly. Although his name was Sui Huang, his title was also Sui Huang. Most people would address him by the title. All right, now that you are in your master's territory, have a good rest and time here. Tell me if there's anything you'd like. Sui Huang smiled and led the group to the exit. Grandpa. When they left the airport, two old men immediately walked over and greeted Sui Huang deferentially. Yeah. Sui Huang revealed a faint smile. He looked at the few black luxury cars ahead before turning to Wang Xian and asking, Brother Wang Xian, are you guys going with me or? Wang Xian pondered for a moment before answering Sui Huang. We would like to walk around the streets of Shangjing first. We will go to your place in the afternoon tomorrow. All right. Sui Huang nodded his head, turned to Guan Shuqing and said, Disciple, if you encounter any problems in Shangjing, just give me a call. Enjoy yourself. All right, Master. Thank you, Master. Guan Shuqing smiled and nodded her head. Sui Huang responded with a smile. After which, he looked to the two old men by the side and instructed, Leave a car behind for them. Let's get back. Yes, Grandpa. The two old men nodded their heads immediately. After which, they looked to Guan Shuqing and said, Marshal Senior Aunt, feel free to instruct us if you have any needs in Shangjing. Arg. When Guan Shuqing heard how the two old men addressed her, she was instantly stunned. The two old men were at least 70 years old. Although they had taken great care of their looks, one could still see signs of aging. And now they were addressing her as Marshal Senior Aunt. This instantly shocked Guan Shuqing. Haha, my dear disciple. Based on seniority, these two kids should indeed address you as Marshal Senior Aunt. We'll be fine once you get used to it. I'll give you a good introduction tomorrow. Sui Huang laughed loudly and remarked after seeing Guan Shuqing's reactions. All right, master. Guan Shuqing smiled bitterly and forced a smile at the two old men. Brother Wang Xian, we will leave that car for you. I'll be getting back now for the preparations, commented Sui Huang heartily. All right, old Sui. Go and handle your matters. I'll walk around the streets with them. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Goodbye, Marshal Senior Aunt, the two old men said deferentially to Guan Shuqing once again. Goodbye. Guan Shuqing replied quickly. As Sui Huang and the two old men left, Wang Xian was speechless. He turned to Guan Shuqing and asked, Shuqing, how old is Sui Huang, that old fogey? His grandsons are already so old. That's my master. How can you call him an old fogey? Guan Shuqing rolled her eyes at Wang Xian before replying, I've asked my master previously. He told me he has lived for more than 2 jiazi. Oh my god. It's no surprise then. He's still so powerful after 2 jiazi. He should be able to live for another few dozens of years. Wang Xian was shocked. 1 jiazi was equivalent to 60 years. 2 jiazi would mean that Sui Huang was over 120 years old. It's no surprise that the two 70-plus-year-old men were calling him grandpa. Incredible. Wang Xian joked. If he could live for another few dozens of years, he would really be a living Buddha. It seems like there won't be people with higher seniority than you in the Sui family in the future. I don't want to have such high seniority. A couple 70, 80-plus old men just addressed me as their Marshal Senior Aunt. Guan Shuqing looked devastated to be called Marshal Senior Aunt by 70, 80-plus-year-old men. If that was the case, those of similar age as her would be calling her Great Marshal Nanny. At the thought of this, Guan Shuqing felt her world was spinning. Sometimes, having too high seniority would be extremely embarrassing. Hee Shuqing. I think that's pretty cool. Just imagine a group of old men behind you and having to greet you with respect. Lan Qingyue chuckled as she commented. Yeah, sister-in-law. I heard from my master that families with deeper history typically have lots of rules. Considering your seniority, those middle-aged and younger generations might have to kneel down before you. Ah. It feels incredible just thinking about it. Xiaoyu was visualizing the scene in her mind as she laughed out loud. Forget it. That's not what I want. If you guys like it, you can take my place. Guan Shuqing rolled her eyes at the two girls who were deriving joy from her misery. Ah, let's go. Let's see where the interesting places in Shangjing are. For lunch, let's go get the roasted duck. Wang Xian was laughing at the girls' conversation but interrupted at this moment. Let's go. Xiaoyu and the group walked towards the car excitedly. It was an extended Bentley with 6 seats, a rather luxurious car. They weren't surprised that a sacred clan could easily come out with cars like this. Mo Qinglong drove the car and brought the group to famous places in Shangjing. Shangjing was known for their roasted ducks. Therefore they naturally would like to taste it since they were here. At noon, the group toured the Imperial Palace. The group was still full of energy and enthusiasm at night despite having played the whole day. All of them were martial artists. They wouldn't be tired even if they had been touring the whole day. What would you like to have for dinner? Should we eat in the hotel or head out? The Bentley drove on the streets of Shangjing. Wang Xian smiled and asked the few girls around him. As he spoke, he started observing Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue from top to bottom. Oh, Lan Qingyue, I haven't gotten my hands on you. Today will be a good opportunity. We aren't going back to the hotel yet. We have to go to the night market in Shangjing. After visiting the night market, we still have to go to the famous Wangfu shopping street. Ah, I'm going to go on a frenzy of a shopping spree. Xiaoyu, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing and Elder Fang were thrilled and spoke loudly. We have been shopping for the entire day. Aren't you guys tired? Wang Xian felt a little speechless at their responses. Fatigue is non-existent. We should be enjoying ourselves fully since we are in Shangjing. Xiao Xian, don't think of lazing around. We still need you to carry our bags. Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian and gave their orders directly. Wang Xian was speechless. It seemed like he wouldn't be getting his way again tonight. Chapter 299, Call Daddy. 1. Chapter 299, Call Daddy. 1. Haha, this is nice. Shuqing, try this. This is not bad. Sister-in-law, this is not bad either. Master, have a try. Shangjing, the richest city with the most robust foundation in the country, had the most lively nightlife. Wang Xian was left without a choice except watching the four of them buying snacks from various stalls non-stop. They looked happy as they chatted. Yet they drew attention from countless people along the way. For beauties who were the top-notch existences. Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing, and Elder Fang were all martial artists with perfect figures. The four of them were rather tall and they gave off a unique vibe. Even in Shangjing, a city never short of pretty babes, the four of them could easily overtake any one of them when they walked in a row. Let's go shopping. When the four of them arrived at a renowned shopping center in Shangjing, they went in with excitement. Shopping and taking care of their own looks were women's innate tendencies. Even the female inborn experts would not lose this born ability. Finally, they unleashed their born ability by exhibiting an endless amount of energy in shopping. Clothes, accessories, bags, one after another. Soon, Wang Xian and Imo Qinglong were following behind with hands full of bags. They were like henchmen tagging behind the four babes. Wang Xian shook his head. Imagine him and Imo Qinglong being the dignified experts, and they were downgraded to people who carried shopping bags for others for now. The four of them shopped till 11 p.m. before they finally had no choice but to stop. They even agreed to go to another shopping mall the next morning for more shopping. Wang Xian, who was behind them, stumbled as he almost fell to the ground. Not that he was feeling tired, but it was too boring for him. He could not understand this kind of pleasure. Here, Xiao Xian. Wear this watch tomorrow. Men must have a watch of their own. Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue took out one thing that they bought for him as they spoke with beaming faces. Sure. Wang Xian took it over with a smile. The two of them had bought a nice and luxurious watch that cost over 2 million. But he really had no love for the watch. You could imagine that he had to remove his clothes every time he transformed into a dragon. Now he had another watch that hindered him. If he forgot to take off his watch, that watch would be gone as soon as he transformed. However, he could not turn them down. Let me find a hotel. Xiao Yu fished out her phone and searched for hotels. The hotels in Shangjing were quite popular. By this time, some of the hotels might have been fully booked. The group went into 3 hotels before they found one on the street. This is the street with the famous pubs of Shangjing. Xiao Yu was puzzled as she looked ahead. This street was the most lively place in Shangjing during the night. Women in sexy dresses with pretty and exquisite makeup were all over the street. Sports cars were parked on each side of the road. The rich people in Shangjing were far superior to those in Rivertown. Not even 10 river towns could compare with one Shangjing city. Let's go back to our room and sleep. Xiao Yu swept a glance around and headed to the hotel ahead without much interest. It was a 5-star hotel which was also rather well known. Wang Xian and the gang walked in. As they neared the entrance, Xiao Yu suddenly came to a halt. She looked at the person who stepped out of the sports car with astonishment. What's wrong, Xiao Yu? Asked Wang Xian in surprise. She's Lingy. A reply that sounded surprised. Wang Xian was slightly stunned as he turned his attention over and saw a pretty girl. She was surrounded by another 3 young men and babes as they walked into the hotel. She's really Lingy. I love her song, Flying. It's motivating. Guan Shuqing and the girls spoke with amazement after they saw her. You shouldn't be too surprised if you see some actors and singers. After all, the best art academy is situated here. Wang Xian smiled. I love her songs. Xiao Yu smiled as she looked at the pretty girl. Wang Xian chuckled as he nodded. Are you going on a star hunt? Let's go. We better get back to our room and sleep. It's late. Fine. Xiao Yu nodded, but she could not stop looking at that pretty girl with curiosity. That singer, Ling Yi, also overheard Xiao Yu's conversation. She exhibited a faint smile as she spoke while leaning on a young man affectionately. 2 presidential suites. Imo Qinglong came to the reception and spoke to the front desk staff. I'm sorry, sir. We're only left with 1 presidential suite. Just one? Then just nice. The girls can take the room. Both of you can stay in standard rooms. Xiao Yu chuckled as she spoke to Wang Xian. Actually I think I can squeeze in. Wang Xian said with a slight contemplation. Fat chance. Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing blushed as they spoke to him. 1 presidential suite and 2 suites. Mo Qinglong told the front desk staff. Sure sir. That will be a total of $130,000. The staff said with a smile. Mo Qinglong handed his card over immediately. No more presidential suite. Just then a young man's voice was heard. Sorry sir. The last one has just been booked, the receptionist said with a smile. Oh really? The young man raised his eyebrow as he pulled out a card and placed it on the reception counter. The diamond membership card of your hotel. The diamond members have priority over others when the room is booked at the same time. The young man spoke indifferently as he smiled at the people beside him. Wang Xian and the gang were stunned as they spun around and looked at the young man. He was around 30 years old. Beside him was the pretty singer Ling Yi whom Xiao Yu had mentioned just now. They were the people who had come into the hotel at the same time as them. The front desk staff was placed in a difficult position. Apologetically she said to the young man, Sorry sir. I have already swiped their card. So, I'm really sorry. Her? That young man was taken aback with a grumpy look on his face. Babes, can you let us have your room? I can agree to some of your requests such as autographs and taking photographs. Ling Yi knit her eyebrows slightly as she peered at Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing and the rest. Xiao Yu also frowned. She looked at Guan Shuqing and shook her head slowly. I'm sorry Ling Yi. We have already booked our room. Ling Yi was slightly caught by surprise as bewilderment flashed in her eyes. I can pay for your room as long as you let us have this one. The young man by the side continued to speak. Sorry. Guan Shuqing and the girls shook their heads at the side. Chapter 300 Call Daddy. 2. Chapter 300, Call Daddy. 2. As Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing and the group rejected them, Ling Yi and the young man beside her instantly showed their displeasure. Hi beautiful ladies, can you do your idol a favor? Ling Yi frowned and asked this to Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing and the group. Ling Yi's response made the girls feel speechless and they found it hilarious. Xiao Yu and Guan Shuqing shook their heads and replied, We aren't overzealous fangirls. We are sorry, we're going back to our rooms. As they finished their words, they took their room cards from the front counter and prepared to head towards their rooms. Ling Yi was shocked and embarrassed by the actions of these two fans. Wait a minute. At this moment the young man standing by the side got serious. He tilted his chin up slightly, looked at Xiao Yu and the girls and said, The rooms aren't yours yet. After commenting he took out his phone and made a call. Let's go back and sleep. Wang Xian had been standing by the side, watching them silently. He found the whole incident hilarious and shook his head as he spoke to the girls. Carrying their trophies of the day in his hand, Wang Xian and the group walked towards the elevator. I said stand right there. Seeing that the group had totally ignored him, the young man's face turned gloomy. I'm calling the manager of this hotel. If you wish to be chased out of your room, feel free to go up right now. Wang Xian stopped in his tracks, turned to the young man and remarked, Are you a dumbass? Embarrassing yourself over a room? He couldn't understand how this young man thought. Perhaps he felt he was a notch above others and must stay in the best room. What did you say? The hand of the young man holding the phone stiffened as he glared coldly at Wang Xian. I'm calling you a dumbass. Is there something wrong with your ears? Xiao Yu pouted, looked at this young man and was speechless about his conduct. You dare to reprimand me in Shangjing? The young man was so angry that he laughed instead. With a sinister smile, he pointed at Wang Xian and shouted loudly. Indeed, he's just another brat who is too used to being arrogant in Shangjing, commented Wang Xian as he looked at the young man. Arrogant? Let your daddy tell you this. In Shangjing, your daddy can be as arrogant as he wants. The young man glowered at Wang Xian before looking across the crowd and saying, These few girls are rather pretty. I'll give you a way out now. Get out of here or your daddy will show you what is meant by arrogant. He pointed at the group. Young Master Yuan, who is the one who has offended you? Suddenly a voice broke the standoff. A few middle-aged men walked in through the entrance of the hotel. From the group, a middle-aged man in a suit was shocked to see what was happening in the hotel as he dashed forward and shouted. Manager son, the service of this place is getting worse and worse. I can't even get a presidential suite here. Seeing manager's son running towards him, the young man remarked harshly. How can this be? How can this be? As long as you want it, we will definitely reserve a room for you unless all the rooms are sold. Otherwise, we would definitely not hold them back or not give them to you. Manager's son ran forward with a smile to please the young man. Is it so? In that case, why did your guys give the presidential suites to others when we arrived at the same time? Could it be that this card you gave me is useless? Young Master Yuan looked at manager's son and the corner of his lips curved into a smirk. How can this be? How can this be? We will give it to young Master Yuan even if it means not letting anyone else stay in it. Manager's son put on a pleasing smile once again. Following which, he turned around, stared at the front desk attendants and shouted, What are you guys doing? Can't you handle something so simple? If young Master Yuan wants the presidential suite, give it to him then. Do you guys still want your job? Manager. The two attendants stammered and felt bitter. However, they could only swallow their pride as they lowered their heads. Did you see this? Get out of here now. The young man chided with contempt, looking at Wang Xian and the group. Scram. Since young Master Yuan wants you to scram, you guys better scram. Seconded Manager Sunday. You guys. Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing and the girls stared furiously at the young man and manager's son beside him. They had not expected the manager of the hotel to give away the rooms they had booked to others. Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together. Mo Qinglong, who was standing by the side, stared at them coldly and clenched his fist lightly. Good evening, sirs and ladies. Just as Mo Qinglong was about to strike, a rather desolate figure saw Wang Xian and the group. He was shocked and stunned for a few seconds. After which, he immediately rushed ahead. Deep fear gleamed in his eyes. When the voice of the middle-aged man sounded and he appeared in front of the crowd was taken aback. Manager Sun's eyes popped wide open and he was flabbergasted. It's you. Guan Shuqing looked at the middle-aged man and exclaimed. The middle-aged man looked decadent just like how he had appeared beside the plane in the day. Miss Good. Good evening. The middle-aged man greeted her in fear once again and looked at Guan Shuqing respectfully. He was still on tenterhooks about what had happened on the plane earlier in the day. After recalling the entire incident, all he felt was fear. His enemies had taken advantage of his easily angered personality as they forced him to strike on the plane. In the end, he almost lost all his rationality as he was shrouded in the desire for vengeance. Subsequently, that horrifying old man, Sui Huang, appeared and killed his arch-enemies with a single strike. Those were foreign-born experts. As for him, he was still awaiting judgment from the old man after he broke the rules on the plane by fighting. Whether he lived or died fell solely on the words of that old man. With a whole afternoon to calm down, fear started welling up. If he was dead, what would be the outcome for his family and disciples? They probably would be killed by his past opponents. However, just as he was pondering how he could ask the old man to spare his life, he happened to meet this girl. When they alighted from the plane, his mental state was disheveled. Nonetheless, he still remembered clearly how that old man had looked at this girl dotingly. He even called her his disciple. She's the disciple of that old man, and that old man had not taken in any disciple for several dozens of years. If he could convince the disciple of that old man to put in a word for him, his life might be spared. He greeted Guan Shuqing anxiously and bowed sincerely. What? Good evening, Director Zhou. Manager Sun looked at this boss in shock. To his astonishment, the boss was bowing down to one of the girls that he had just tried to chase out of the hotel a while ago. Bam. The middle-aged man swung a slap over and chided, You better watch your words closely next time. This is my last warning for you. Yes, Director Zhou. Manager Sun staggered back a few steps. His face swelled up instantly as he answered in horror. And you guys, get out of my hotel and you are banned from entering in the future. The middle-aged man looked coldly at young Master Yuan. You guys deserve it. When Guan Shuqing, Xiao Yu and the group saw the situation, they smiled. Chapter 301, Call Daddy. 3. Chapter 301, Call Daddy. 3. Zhou Qingkong, are you sure you want me to scram? The middle-aged man slapped cold words on that young man, embarrassing him instantly. The young man looked malevolent as he glared at Zhou Qingkong. Her? Zhou Qingkong squinted his eyes slightly as he peered at that young man with flickering eyes. Subsequently, he clenched his teeth to show his determination. I said get lost and you better do it now. Fuck you, Zhou Qingkong. Do you think I'm scared of you just because you're an inborn expert? Feng family didn't annihilate you, so you want Yuan family to do it? The young man burst into outrage as soon as he heard Zhou Qingkong. He pointed at him and chided with an extremely arrogant attitude. Even though he knew Zhou Qingkong was an inborn expert, he did not show the slightest fear. Obviously his backing was somewhat powerful. Hee, I want you to get out now. You jolly well should do so. Annihilate me? Stop bragging, lad. Zhou Qingkong spoke to the young man with a sullen face. He knew which side he should be on by now. Fine you. The young man was morose and his face was flushed with redness. He pointed at Zhou Qingkong with constantly changing expressions. Zhou Qingkong, you better watch out. If I don't destroy your hotel today, I, Yuan Fei, will tarnish my own reputation in Shangjing. Didn't you hear me asking you to get out? Zhou Qingkong gradually turned gloomy when he saw Yuan Fei's behavior, encompassing him with a tyrannical oppression. 5 minutes. Just you wait. Yuan Fei felt the magnitude of Zhou Qingkong's imposing demeanor. His face paled, he gritted his teeth and spoke ferociously. Then he turned to Wang Xian and his gang with icy cold eyes. And you guys too. Just you wait. I'll show you what it takes to provoke me. Let's go. He then turned and spoke to Ling Yi and the other 2 people next to him while he dug out his phone exasperatedly. Zhou Qingkong was slightly embarrassed. He took a deep breath and turned to look at Guan Shuqing again. Miss, it's my honor that you stay in our hotel. I hope you have a pleasant rest today. Thank you, Director Zhou. Guan Shuqing was delighted on her face as she expressed her gratitude when Director Zhou went all out to offend the young man in their defense. You're welcome. Miss, which room are you staying in? I'll show you the way. Director Zhou said quickly. It's okay. We can go over ourselves. Guan Shuqing shook her head. It's nothing. It's my pleasure to serve you. Director Zhou shook his head in a hurry as he led them ahead. Manager's son, behind him, was a little dumbfounded as he stared at his boss with doubts on his face. Who was that girl such that his boss did not hesitate to offend Yuan family? Wang Xian, Xiaoyu and the rest went into the president's suite. Boom boom. After Wang Xian placed his things on the table, Elder Feng opened the window for ventilation, and they could hear the roaring of engines outside. Smash. Subsequently, the shattering of the glass window was heard. Her? Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing, Xiaoyu, and the rest were slightly stunned as they went to the window immediately. What a lineup. Elder Feng looked outside with a surprised look. It's Shangjing indeed, with daring people stomping over the hotel of an inborn expert. At this time, more than a score of supercars were gathered at the hotel entrance. Each of the supercars was vrooming loudly with unruly young men standing in front of them. They were gazing at the hotel before them with arrogance. The engine sound from earlier had been from one of the supercars crashing into the hotel rampantly. Arrogance above anyone else. Zhou Qingkong, you son of a bitch. Get your ass out here. Those whores too. A familiar conceited voice was heard, stunning Wang Xian and the rest as they exchanged gazes. Let's go down together, Wang Xian told Xiaoyu and Guan Shuqing immediately with a stern face. How dare he scold us? The girls were infuriated with that young man's cockiness and swollen head. They put down their stuff and headed downstairs. Bam. However, when they reached the lobby, a figure was sent flying to their faces. He spat out a mouthful of blood with a face as white as a sheet. Director Zhou. Guan Shuqing was aghast as she exclaimed. She hurriedly walked over and checked on him. I'm fine. As soon as Director Zhou saw Guan Shuqing arrived at the lobby, he revealed a smile on his pale-looking face. At the same time, a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. Haha, how dare you agitate my buddy? Zhou Qingkong, are you sick of living? A disdainful and complacent voice was heard. The hotel door was knocked down entirely, with a sports car crashing into the sofa in the lobby. Yuan Fei stood beside it, and he did not feel sorry for the luxurious car that had crashed. With his chin lifted up, he stared at Zhou Qingkong disdainfully. When he noticed Wang Xian and his gang were walking out, his face turned cold with a taunting look. All the luxury sports cars had already blocked the entrance of the hotel. More than a score of cars were parked at the entrance. A young man was sitting in a limited edition sports car at the center, and he had crossed his legs with a smile as he remarked just now. Beside that young man stood a domineering middle-aged man. Obviously he was the one who had struck just now. Apart from that middle-aged man, in every sports car sat a young man with taunting looks. They wore branded goods, drove branded cars, the typical rich second generation who had strong backings. Other than this group of affluent young men, several middle-aged men and elders were around with several inborn experts amongst them. Such a force was daunting. You guys came out. Haha, I'll make sure you kneel over here for the entire night. Yuan Fei took a look at Wang Xian and the gang with a stone-cold face. He was so conceited that, in his eyes, he had high regard for no one. He's quite something. No wonder he was such a rich idiot in Shangjing. They really must have some backings if nobody dares to go against them. Wang Xian observed Yuan Fei and turned his attention to the rest of the young men and two inborn experts at the door. Finally, he fixed his eyes on the young man at the center who had spoken just now. His last name is Sui? Is he from Sui Huang's family? Upon recalling what that young man had said, he whispered to Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue and Guan Shuqing next to him. All of them froze for a moment. If that's the case, it'd be interesting. Xiao Yu exhibited a teasing look as he looked at the young man in the sports car at the center position. With a smile he said, "Hey lad in the middle. Your nanny is here. If you're not paying your respects, then what are you waiting for?" Boom. Xiao Yu's words struck all the young men in the sports car dumbfoundedly almost immediately. How dare a lass speak to Sui Ao in such a manner? Tired of living? The young man in the middle was slightly stunned as he looked at Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing and Elder Fang. With a smirk drawn at the corner of his lips, he sneered. "Tell me, what do you think of asking them to crawl over to lick my shoes and call me daddy?" Chapter 302, Crawl on Your Knees Here and Pay Respect to Great Marshal Nanny, 1. Chapter 302, Crawl on Your Knees Here and Pay Respect to Great Marshal Nanny, 1. Tell me, what do you think of asking them to crawl over to lick my shoes and call me daddy? Sui Ao looked around him as he commented casually with disdain. However, just as he completed his sentence, he broke into laughter and answered his own question. "I think that's a pretty good suggestion." After which he stood up. The surrounding group of young men naturally saw him as their leader and got out from their cars. "Brother Ao, those girls over there are pretty good looking. Licking shoes might be a little too much. Let me remove my shoes instead." "Haha Guzai. Are you trying to stink them to death with your size 45 feet? I can't imagine the stench of his feet after he removes his shoes. You are too cruel." The few young men broke into laughter and joked as they walked towards the hotel. All of them were swollen with inordinate arrogance. They were all from elite-tier families in Shangjing. Each one of them possessed considerable strength. Moreover, they had now gathered together and had Sui Ao who came from the highest-tier existence in Shangjing. Therefore the group was fearful of nothing. When the crowd walked into the hotel, a middle-aged man and an old man stood to the left and right of Sui Ao respectively. Both of them gave off horrifying vibes. Sui Ao, who was standing in the middle, looked at Wang Xian and the group with contempt. He walked towards a chair at the side and placed one of his legs on it. "I, Sui Ao, typically wouldn't argue with girls. However, you guys have offended my brother and therefore you guys have offended us." Sui Ao squinted his eyes and shouted, "Come here and kneel down. Come and kneel down immediately. Otherwise we will toy with you till you die." Yuan Fei stared at Wang Xian and the group and chided before walking to the side of Sui Ao. "You guys are so incredible." Wang Xian looked at the group of 20 to 30 young men coldly. "Who are those people? Why are they so noisy? Yeah. Why are they still kicking up a fuss in the middle of the night and disrupting our rest?" At this moment, some guests arrived at the lobby of the hotel. Clearly, the commotion caused when the car crashed directly into the hotel had alarmed many people. 7 to 8 middle-aged men were in their pajamas. They had tattoos on their hands with fat drooping down their face. But they looked extremely fierce. They bemoaned unhappily. However, when they saw the group of young men in the lobby, they were taken aback. Their gaze fell on some of them as their pupils constricted. Young Master Zhen, Young Master Feng, Young Master Li. The few of them immediately went over to the group of young men to greet them. However, the group of young men wasn't paying attention to them. Their eyes were still fixed on Wang Xian's group. "Tsk. You guys must be eager to die to offend young Master Zhen and his friends." A middle-aged man chided Wang Xian and the group to get on the good books of young Master Zhen. Scram. Mo Qinglong looked at the group of middle-aged men and shouted. Horrifying aura and killing intent swept towards them. You are... Plop. The group of middle-aged men couldn't withstand Mo Qinglong's aura fully as they were knocked unconscious and fell to the ground. After which, Mo Qinglong turned to Sui Ao and the group. Contempt and disdain were written all over his face as he said, "Can you afford the consequences for making us kneel before you? Inborn expert? It's no surprise that you guys are acting so presumptuously." Sui Ao squinted his eyes and stared coldly at Mo Qinglong as he continued. "From your accent, I believe you must have come from somewhere other than Shangjing. Haven't you heard of the saying, in Shangjing, even inborn experts have to keep a low profile. Otherwise..." The middle-aged and old men beside him stepped forward at this moment. The aura of inborn experts immediately shrouded towards Mo Qinglong as they continued the sentence for Sui Ao. "Otherwise, you will die too." "Ah, I wonder who gives you the guts to be arrogant in our territory. Right now, I'll give you 5 seconds to get here and kneel before us. Otherwise, you guys can forget about leaving Shangjing. Not even an inborn expert could escape." Yuan Fei's haughty voice sounded once again. "Don't be so imperious." When Guan Shuqing saw the arrogant looks of Sui Ao, she was infuriated and continued, "You are Sui Ao. This has nothing to do with you. Stay out of this and don't be arrogant. Otherwise, I'll let my master know." "Ah, imperious?" Sui Ao burst into laughter. "A few foreigners dare to offend my brother. It's only natural that I'll be involved now. Let your master know? Even if your master was here, he would have to kneel before me like you guys. All of you here have to kneel before me today until the sun rises. Otherwise, I'll strip you guys and throw you on the street. You girls are pretty good looking. I believe there would be lots of people interested." "Hehe. Brother Ao, these girls are really beautiful." "Ah, they're pretty good. However, I still prefer to see the horrified looks of beautiful girls." "What a pervert you are." As Sui Ao completed his words, the group of young men around him joked and conversed casually. This group of young men wasn't concerned about the strength that Mo Qinglong had demonstrated, or Wang Xian and the group. "You. Great. I'll convey what you said to my master." Guan Shuqing was referring to Sui Huang when she talked about her master. She had asked Sui Ao to stay out of this, but he started insulting them instead. This infuriated her and made her pull out her phone right away. "Io? She's really calling her parents now? Ah, this is interesting." When Yuan Fei saw Guan Shuqing take out her phone, he looked at her with ridicule and mocked loudly, "I'll let you call anyone you wish. In Shangjing there's really no one we are afraid of. Get your master here. I'll let him kneel down in front of me too," said Sui Ao disdainfully. Hearing what Sui Ao and his friends had said, a cold light flashed in her eyes. "Hello, master. Someone is bullying me." Guan Shuqing's voice sounded. When she called through the phone to Sui Huang, she immediately spoke bitterly. "Ah, there are people who dare to bully you when brother Wang Xian is with you? Where are you? I'll send my guys over." In a Sihiyuan in Shangjing, Sui Huang sat with his legs crossed, cultivating. When he heard his disciple, he was taken aback initially. "His name is Sui Ao. He brought many people with him and they surrounded us. After which, he demanded that we kneel before him and even wanted to strip us and throw us to the streets. I told him that I'd be informing you and he said he would make Master kneel in front of him if Master was here." Guan Shuqing snitched to Sui Huang as she repeated everything Sui Ao had said previously. "Haha, you really called your master? In that case, tell him to get right here, kneel before us and apologize." Sui Ao heard what Guan Shuqing said over the phone and responded loudly with disdain. Chapter 303 Crawl here on your knees and pay respect to Great Marshal Nanny 2. Chapter 303 Crawl here on your knees and pay respect to Great Marshal Nanny 2. Sui Huang, with the phone in his hands, froze, standing in the room. He was stupefied with what his disciple had told him just now. Upon hearing the haughty voice from the phone now, his expression darkened immediately. The other party wanted him to go there and kneel in front of him. On top of it, it was the descendant of the Sui family who had said it. For a moment, Sui Huang's face sank with a cold expression. Not only had his descendant bullied his new disciple, but he even wanted him to go over with his knees on the ground. This unfilial descendant may have not known the truth, but it was still disgraceful and unforgivable. Looks like some of the younger fellows of Sui family are accustomed to arrogance. Sui Huang darkened his expression. As the pillar and founder of Sui family, he fought with his life such that they could become a sacred clan and achieve their current status. Now he was old. He could only have a few decades of lifespan left. For the future of Sui family, he had spent 20 years roaming around the country just to find a successor. He wanted to find a disciple who could take over for him and inherit his prowess. Nothing is impossible for those who try. He finally found a fantastic disciple, and he was sure that this disciple would be extraordinary. Her strength could reach his realm easily. When he turned old, his disciple could still maintain the prosperity of Sui family for another century. Yet, a lad from Sui family had dared to provoke his own elders, and even acted arrogantly in front of him. Sui Huang had a nasty and cold look. "Disciple, where are you now? Someone will be there in 5 minutes. I have not been meddling with family affairs for 20 years. It looks like some people have forgotten about how their ancestors worked hard for the family." Sui Huang hung up his phone and made several calls. "Get your ass to Fenghua Love Hotel now. My disciple is surrounded by a lad from Sui family. He was so arrogant that he asked me to kneel and apologize to him. You better get over and settle it for me now." A phone call was made to the current Sui family leader. The leader of Sui family, age 75, was the grandson of Sui Huang. When he heard his grandfather's exclamations, he was so frightened that he almost peed in his pants. That's right. Almost peed in his pants. His grandfather was a godlike existence to him. In his impression, his grandfather may have been a mild person, but anyone who provoked him would be as good as digging his own grave. "Yes, grandfather. I'll bring my men over and check out who that is. I'll ensure Marshal Ant's safety." A film of cold sweat covered that old man's forehead instantly. As one of the 3 sacred clans leaders in Shangjing, when had he ever been so panicky before? Ensure her safety? Get it done in 5 minutes. Sui Huang hung up the phone immediately as soon as he finished. "Yes, yes." Despite hearing the dial tone, the old man continued to answer and nod in fear. Subsequently, he called his siblings one by one with a darkened expression. "Grandfather is angry. Check who the troublemaker is now." A phone call got all the 3rd generation of Sui family to put on their clothes and set off in a panic. They were the current headmen running the family. If their grandfather was angry, this was serious. All the cars, one by one, drove out from Sihiyuan at late hours. Sui family had a score of 3rd generation members, and the number increased when it came to the 4th and 5th generations. Currently, the Sui family had over thousands of members, blooming with offspring. "Haha, you finished making your call? Interesting. Let's see who your master is. It'd be good if she was a pretty woman. No fun having an old man." Sui Ao chuckled loudly. "Brother Ao, you have unique taste." "Haha, what do you know? Brother Ao is growing rapidly. From Lolita, young girls, young ladies to pretty women, we should learn from him." The bunch of young men remarked with a smile. "Humph, I hope you can laugh 5 minutes from now." Upon seeing their cocky faces, Guan Shuqing spoke with disgust. "All of you will be kneeling before me in 5 minutes. Yuan Fei stared at them with disdain. "Humph." Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue and the rest stared at them coldly. "We'll wait and see if you can laugh later." The bunch of young men smiled and commented on Xiao Yu and the rest, looking at them from head to toe. Wang Xian and his gang kept quiet. "Your 5 minutes are up. It looks like your master is late. In this case, why don't you guys just kneel down now? I don't have the time for you." Sui Ao looked at his watch after 5 minutes and commanded them with contempt. "Her?" At this time, luxurious cars were parked at the hotel entrance with old men walking out from them. "Brother. Brother. Clan leader." All the elderly people looked over and greeted the old man who was dressed as a clan leader with 2 golden words, Sheng Sui, on his clothes. "Let's go." The old man swept a glance at the rest before he frowned at the sports cars in front of the hotel. A cold smile surfaced on his face. As soon as he was at the door, he heard the arrogant voice. The clan leader immediately pulled a long face and walked in. Those elders behind him were also looking stern. This incident not only enraged the clan leader, but it also incensed their grandfather. That man was the fundamental reason for Sui family to be standing firm. "Do we need to kneel before you too?" A voice resounded in the hotel lobby, stunning the group of young men. Sueo was puzzled as the voice sounded familiar to him. "Oh, get in here." He turned around with some impatience in his soft bellow. "This?" When the young man at the door turned around, his entire body stiffened up. All of them parted their lips with wide and round eyes in disbelief when they saw the group of old men arriving at the door. A total of 20 old men were walking into the hotel with eye-catching family uniforms. There was another old man with an expensive-looking walking stick standing to the side. The bunch of young men at the door unconsciously stepped aside with trembling bodies when they walked in. The atmosphere was so still that they could even hear their own breaths clearly. "Clan leader." Sueo opened his eyes wide when he saw that all the third-generation members of Sui family, including his grandfather, were here. All he had was a surprised look. "Clan leader, grandfather, why are you guys?" asked Sueo fearfully as uneasiness surged. But he did not dare to think further. The clan leader cast an indifferent look on Sueo, the current most outstanding offspring of Sui family. He did not reply to anything as he swept his gaze across Wang Xian. Eventually he fixed his eyes on Guan Shuqing and quickened his pace. The elders behind him sped up at the same time. Chapter 304, Crawl on your knees over and pay respect to Great Marshal Nanny 3. Chapter 304, Crawl on your knees over and pay respect to Great Marshal Nanny 3. An old man with a walking stick walked at the back of the pack. When he walked to Sueo, his body shivered a little as he glowered at him. "Grandpa, what happened?" asked Sueo cautiously. At this moment, the experts of the Sui family of his grandpa appeared with him. "What happened?" the old man growled while trying to keep his anger in check. To the astonishment of the crowd, he waved his walking stick ruthlessly towards Sueo's legs. Bam! Crack crack! Without holding back at all, the walking stick swung heavily on Sueo's legs. Sounds of his bones snapping instantly propagated throughout the lobby. "Arg! Grandpa!" Sueo shrieked in pain. However, the physical pain he felt from the body wasn't what he was most concerned with right now as he looked in horror at the grandpa who had always doted on him dearly. To his surprise, the old man with the walking stick didn't even pay attention to him after hitting him and simply walked past him. This? The surrounding group of young men held their breath and they were terrified. The current clan leader of the Sui family and every member who held considerable influence in the clan were all here. These 20 people represented the sacred clan, Sui family. Moreover, they were the ones with speaking rights in the Sui family currently. Every single one of them had extremely large authority and influence. Sueo was just one of many grandsons when compared to these true big shots in the Sui family. Read more chapter on novel full. Regardless of seniority or standing, Sueo was nowhere close. However, the crowd was soon stunned and horrified by what was to come. The clan leader of Sui family and the third generation of Sui family walked towards the girl that made the call directly and lowered their heads respectfully. "Greetings, Marshal Senior Aunt." "Greetings, Marshal Senior Aunt." "Marshal Senior Aunt." The clan leader of the Sui family and the third generation of the Sui family are addressing that girl as their Marshal Senior Aunt. Oh gosh. This. The clan leader and a member of the upper management of Sui family are calling that girl their Marshal Senior Aunt. What's her real identity? The surrounding group of young men looked on in horror and disbelief. When Sueo saw his grandpa and the clan leader lowering their heads in front of the girl, his body couldn't help but shiver in fear. Marshal Senior Aunt. Marshal Senior Aunt. Marshal Senior Aunt. He was in a daze as he mumbled. Slowly, fear and horror gripped him. If that girl was the Marshal Senior Aunt of his grandpa, wouldn't that make her the disciple that his great-great-grandfather was taking in? Oh gosh. His great-great-grandfather was an immortal-like existence in Sui family and the true soul pillar of the Sui family. That phone call from before. At the thought of this, his body started shivering violently. He didn't dare to think about the consequences. It's over, it's over. At this point, Guan Shuqing was once again embarrassed by the group of old people addressing her as their Marshal Senior Aunt. The age differences between them were too huge. Guess, get up now. You don't have to be so courteous. It's our fault that Marshal Senior Aunt had to suffer such grievances in Shangjing. The clan leader of the Sui family continued deferentially. The disciple of their grandfather was deserving of them acting deferentially towards her. The old men with the walking stick turned around, glared coldly at Sui Ao and demanded, "Crawl here on your knees and pay respect to Great Marshal Nanny." "Yes, yes." When Sui Ao heard his grandpa's voice, he immediately crawled over. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. "Great Marshal Nanny, this is all my fault. I failed to recognize you. It's my fault. Please give me another chance." Sui Ao had completely lost his pride and arrogance as he kneeled there, apologizing constantly. The group of young men behind him was paralyzed with fear. Yuan Fei felt his whole body go numb as he lost all control of it and collapsed onto the floor. After which, he quickly went on his knees. "I was wrong. I was wrong." When the group saw Yuan Fei go down on his knees, they also kneeled down in horror. Sui Ao was the leader of this group. Now that even Sui Ao had to kneel down, they could only do the same in front of the Sui family. "Tsk." Guan Shuqing sneered at Sui Ao, who was horrified and lost. "You were still so arrogant a while ago. Why are you acting like a wimp now? Marshal Senior Aunt, Grandpa instructed us to handle this matter. We will definitely give you a satisfactory answer." Seeing that Guan Shuqing was clearly still displeased, the clan leader of Sui family spoke immediately. "In that case, I leave this to you. Thank you for rushing here at this hour." Seeing the group of old men being so respectful to her, Guan Shuqing spoke gently as she would feel bad if she continued to be demanding. It's all right. Marshal Senior Aunt, do you want to return with us to have a good rest?" The clan leader of the Sui family asked, revealing a smile. "No thank you. I'll just stay here for the night. I'll see you guys tomorrow." "All right. In that case, we shall not disturb Marshal Senior Aunt," said the clan leader of the Sui family. After which, he looked to the group of old men that had come with him. "Grandpa is dissatisfied with the current state of Sui family. Aren't some of our disciples from Sui family getting too arrogant outside? It's time to teach them a lesson. Perhaps some of these juniors have forgotten about the sweat and tears our grandfathers and fathers shed to give us what we have today. It's time we do something." As Sui Ao heard what the few old men said, his face turned as white as a sheet. Clan disciple Sui Ao has offended his senior and broken the rules of the clan. Your identity as a core disciple of the clan will be taken away, and so will the benefits bestowed upon you. You shall now be deployed to manage the company. The clan leader of the Sui family gave his orders immediately. Upon hearing this, Sui Ao felt desolated. With all his rights as a disciple of Sui family taken away from him, he could only be an ordinary member of the Sui family and would have to work for the family. His future might end up even worse than ordinary Sui family's disciples. All the young men around him were shocked and horrified. Sui Ao was the most gifted in the current generation of the Sui family. He was also ranked 10th on the Outstanding Young Heroes chart. Yet, everything would be taken away from him as he would be shifted from the core of the family to the fringe businesses. It would likely be difficult for him to make a comeback even if he made it to the inborn realm. Or rather, without the resources provided to him by the Sui family, how could he possibly reach the inborn realm? His magnificent life could now be declared as completely finished. Guan Shuqing looked plainly at Sui Ao. After bidding goodbye to the group of old men from the Sui family, she followed Wang Xian and the group back to their rooms. The clan leader of Sui family looked at the middle-aged men standing beside their martial senior aunt. "We have investigated the matter in the day. If you do it again, our Sui family will come and annihilate you." Yes. Thank you. Thank you, clan leader Sui." When Zhou Qingkong heard clan leader Sui, he was thrilled. His meager life had finally been kept. His gaze fell on the desolated Sui Ao as he couldn't help but sigh. "You must be too eager to die. As a junior in the Sui family, you stood up for others and humiliated the disciple of your great-great-grandfather. If this isn't courting your own death, what else is?" Chapter 305, Arts of Refining Elixir Pills. Chapter 305, Arts of Refining Elixir Pills. A storm was over just like that. However, it did not affect the ebullient mood of the girls at night. The next day, the four ladies knocked on Wang Xian's door at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. as they dragged him to see the flag-raising ceremony, all in high spirits. Wang Xian was speechless. Sometimes, women's energy was beyond imagination. After watching the flag-raising ceremony, they went to the famous bun shop in Shangjing to have some buns. Subsequently, they went shopping again. Wang Xian could only help to carry their shopping bags behind them as he watched the 4 pretty ladies walking into stores, one after another. It was only after just past 3 p.m. in the afternoon that they stopped after receiving Sui Huang's call. This is insane. Wang Xian let out a brief sigh. The group took a car and came to an ancient district in Shangjing. This place was known to be old and ancient because it was filled with Sihiyuan. In Shangjing, an ancient Sihiyuan could easily cost a few hundred million. It was not easy to get a place here even if one was wealthy. However, there was a mountain known as Xingsui Mountain just right behind the Sihiyuan. Many people did not know why it was named Xingsui Mountain. Only those who knew called it Sui Family Sacred Mountain. There were 3 sacred mountains in Shangjing, which represented 3 powerful sacred clans in Shangjing. When Wang Xian and the rest drove a car to somewhere near, someone from the Sui Family Sacred Clan would guide them around. Read more chapter on novel full. Great Nanny, please follow me, said a middle-aged man to Guan Shuqing respectfully as he led the way ahead into Xingsui Mountain. Okay. Guan Shuqing nodded as she looked around with curiosity. They were surrounded by Sihiyuan. Most of them were connected and the doors were not closed within. Groups of well-dressed Sui family members were either dressing up or exchanging conversations. Most of them were talking about Sui family's Laozu accepting a disciple. 2. They were in awe of it when they were talking about it. From there, one could tell Sui Huang's status in Sui family. Does the entire region belong to Sui family? Xiaoyu was surprised as she looked around. There were hundreds of Sihiyuan around them, spanning an area of several kilometers. This seemed like a small village. Yes, this is Sui family's territory. Our sacred mountain is just ahead. The middle-aged man smiled and nodded. He was a little proud as this was the strength of Sui family. Impressive. Xiaoyu, Lan Qingyue and the rest were slightly stupefied. Just these Sihiyuan of Sui family were worth close to $100 billion. Besides, not everyone could get Sihiyuan even if they had the money. The gang followed the middle-aged man into the mountain. The entire Xingsui mountain was landscaped. The peak stood at about 40 to 50 meters tall, which was not very high. A cave was found at the center of the mountain. A domineering flame seemed to be coming out from that cave. There were quite a number of houses on the mountain that resembled ancient buildings. Laozu is staying in this room. You may go in. The middle-aged man pointed to a house. Sure. Guan Shuqing nodded and the group walked into the room. Master. Come in. Sui Huang's voice was heard. After Wang Xian entered the room, they saw him sitting in a chair, reading a book in his hand. My disciple. Sui Huang put down his book and smiled. He was wearing the uniform of Sui family with no hair out of place. Every move that he made exuded the superior vibe of an expert. He looked very different from how he had looked back in Rivertown. Master. Upon seeing Sui Huang, Guan Shuqing walked to him and beamed, Master, you became more good-looking. Haha, well, I was even more handsome when I was young. Many girls in Shangjing carried a torch for me. Sui Huang chuckled as he stroked Guan Shuqing's head. Xiaoqing is also a pretty girl. You need to change into Sui family's uniform later in the disciple acceptance ceremony tonight. I already got them ready for you. Since there's nothing much going on now, go and change your clothes now. Yes, master. Take Xiaoqing in to change her clothes. Sui Huang instructed a servant in the house. Yes, old master. The old servant nodded and looked at Guan Shuqing. Miss, please follow me. Okay. Guan Shuqing nodded. Let's follow them and check it out. The 3 ladies went to join in the fun, leaving the rest behind. Old Sui, your Sui family is quite impressive. Wang Xian sat down at the side bluntly and began to sip his tea. Haha, of course. After all, this is the sacred clan which I founded. Sui Huang was very proud as he praised himself shamelessly. Wang Xian quirked his lips and did not answer him. Ever since they had towed the plane together yesterday, both of them were less awkward, and their relationship was closer than before. Besides, Sui Huang may have been old but he acted like a child. Hence, he was someone easy to get along with. Wang Xian had a rather good impression of Sui Huang. I can tell that you have quite a number of good things in this sacred mountain. Old Sui, I want to check it out. Ah, sure. I'll take you around. I've been managing this place for 100 years. Sui Huang stood up with pride. He signaled for Wang Xian to go out with him. This is the Sui family's sacred mountain, and it's not just a name. Sui Huang gazed at the surroundings and smiled when they were outside. "What treasures do you have inside that cave?" asked Wang Xian with a smile. "Let's go. You'll find out when you get there." Sui Huang chuckled and brought Wang Xian into a cave in the sacred mountain. They were swamped by the heat as soon as they went in. The temperature inside was at least 100 degrees. Any ordinary people would be incinerated the moment they entered. The entire cave was glowing in red. Wang Xian looked up and spotted 2 giant flame spiritual beads embedded in the top. Below it was fuming magma and a few tables for the use of cultivation. There was a red door deep inside, but he did not know what was behind the door. "This is our cultivation area. What do you think?" 2 spiritual flame balls, and one of them is body refining spiritual flame ball. "Not bad, is it?" Sui Huang said with slight contempt, as he had spent quite a lot of effort to obtain these 2 spiritual flame balls. "Not bad." Wang Xian did not rebuke him this time. The 2 spiritual flame balls were all level 10, 1 level higher than the spiritual flame ball he had gotten the other time. Never underestimate the difference between levels. It marks a significant difference between inborn or non-inborn. "Let's go. I'll show you my alchemy room." Sui Huang was beaming as he walked inside and opened a door. More than 330 square meters of space popped out in front of them. In the middle of the room was an alchemy furnace. Chapter 306 Cai Lu Fa. Chapter 306, Cai Lu Fa. Triangular Alchemy Furnace. Below the alchemy furnace was tumbling lava. The entire alchemy furnace was green and looked like it was from a long time ago. Despite being within a cave of a scorching hot volcano, Wang Xian didn't feel the heat at all. "This is my triangular green alchemy furnace. I found it from an ancient ruin. As for the arts of refining elixir pills, I got it from the same place. This is also the root of my ascension." Sui Huang smiled and looked at Wang Xian. "I don't know how a demon like you can reach this horrifying realm at such a young age. You probably have your own chance encounter." Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Subsequently, he turned and looked at the alchemy furnace inquisitively. "I had not expected the alchemy recorded in history to really exist. I wonder if I could concoct elixir pills that grant a person eternal life." "Elixir pills that grant eternal life?" That might be possible. Records of emperors in history searching for all kinds of elixir pills to extend their lives weren't just myths. They truly existed, Sui Huang said in a definitive tone. When it came to refining elixir pills, he maintained a confident and reverent attitude. "Is it really that incredible? Could it be that there were real immortals on Earth in the past?" Wang Xian was surprised and asked as his eyes beamed. "Perhaps. However, there might not have been." Sui Huang sank into deep thought and couldn't give a definitive answer this time. Based on some records, there were definitely more experts in the past than current times. As for the existence of immortals recorded in mythology, I can't be sure. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. The world is too mysterious. Based on mythology, there were ghosts and demons that roamed the world and immortals that flew in the air. However, these claims couldn't be verified. As to whether there were real immortals, no one could be sure. It was especially so for ancient martial artists. After all, their arts of cultivations had all originated from the past. The path of refining elixir pills is vast and deep. If you can become a powerful alchemist, you will gain huge benefits too. As for the value of elixir pills, they are typically valued 10 times more than spiritual medicine of the same level, explained Sui Huang. "Really?" Wang Xian was taken aback as he asked in shock. "Read more chapter on novelful." "Definitely. The effects of level 1 elixir pills could match the effects of a level 2 spiritual medicine," Sui Huang explained as if he was explaining a known fact. "Spiritual medicine in the world is just simple elemental energies and effects. If you could mix them with other spiritual medicine to form elixir pills, the effects of the elixir pills would be several times better. Naturally, refining elixir pills is an extremely difficult thing. It requires great talents and control over fire. At my current realm, I am only able to refine up to level 5 elixir pills. A level 5 elixir pills made by me can allow a half-step to inborn realm expert reach the inborn realm directly without obstructions. Level 6 elixir pills can allow an inborn expert to reach the half-step to Dan realm. Level 7 elixir pills can allow a half-step to Dan realm expert to reach the Dan realm." "Wow, that's incredible." Wang Xian was shocked. The path of cultivation requires Cai Lu Fa. Based on this sequence, Cai is the first requirement. It represents resources. What's the most important resource for cultivation? That is spiritual medicine. Lu represents cultivators who cultivate together. It is about interaction, cross-verification, and helping each other understand. Lu could also refer to one's master and receiving guidance from one's master. Naturally, it could also refer to couples. Fa refers to the cultivation method. In other words, it's the secret art of cultivation. As for D, it's about the location of cultivation. Cai, Lu, F together are a train of thoughts that any cultivators, past or present, can agree to. Resource is the first requirement, and therefore you should be able to see the importance of spiritual medicine and spiritual grass. Sui Huang explained to Wang Xian. Wang Xian pondered. As a divine dragon and having the divine dragon system, the system could substitute for Lu. For Fa, he had the divine dragon transformation. For D, he had his dragon palace. He was only lacking in Cai. If the system was similar to the divine dragon cultivation system, would Cai appear in the system in the future? Only by having all 4 requirements could he become a powerful divine dragon. As for the notification from the system, he had only learned about the dragon palace after subduing 3 marine animals. Could it be that I need to reach a certain condition to have the Cai? If that's the case, what should I do? Can it be that I need? Wang Xian's eyes beamed as he looked to the triangular green alchemy furnace. Since he had obtained the system, there were few notifications. Moreover, this system was different from common novels he had read. The system did not issue him a mission or a main path to follow. He had to do the discovery of most things by himself. Old Sui. That, Wang Xian's eyes shimmered and smiled. Old Sui, can you let me take a look at your arts of refining elixir pills? When Sui Huang heard him, he was taken aback. His expression turned gloomy and looked at Wang Xian with ridicule. Rascal, you have pretty thick skin. Passable, passable. Wang Xian pressed on and continued, I'd just like to take a look as I'm interested in it. If I can become an alchemist, I'll send some level 6, 7 and 8 pills to you after I refine them in the future. Sui Huang was a little annoyed upon hearing Wang Xian. Level 7, 8? Do you think the arts of refining elixir pills is that simple? Disregarding refining elixir pills, can you find level 7 and 8 spiritual medicine and grass? You sure know how to brag. In that case, tell me what I have to do for you to show me your arts of refining elixir pills? Wang Xian asked directly. You little rascal. Sui Huang wasn't pleased when he heard that Wang Xian wanted to learn about alchemy. This was his trump card and the reason for his ascension. However, he recalled that his wife would be his disciple. He couldn't guarantee that his disciple wouldn't let this rascal know. I'm fine with you taking a look at the arts of refining elixir pills. However, in the future and as long as you are alive, if my Sui family is in trouble, you have to help them. Besides that, give me some treasures that interest me. Otherwise, don't even think about it. Sui Huang said with a little disdain. I'm fine with helping out, but I can't be forever guarding your Sui family, right? 3 times. 3 times at the maximum. As for treasures? Wang Xian frowned. He didn't seem to have any treasures at all. Even his spiritual medicine was used up by this old man. I'll give you the treasures when I find them. In that case, let's continue this conversation when you have something that interests me. After finishing these words, Sui Huang continued impatiently, Go. I'm not bringing you around anymore. If something interests you, you might just take it away from me considering how thick-skinned you are. Damn, old man. Am I a person like that? Wang Xian was speechless and asked him this directly. You aren't? You just asked me for my trump card. You're not a person like that? Sneered Sui Huang. You didn't even give me anything, right? Wang Xian choked and his voice softened. I'm not silly. Who would give you this the moment you demand it? Sui Huang shot him a deathly glare. All right, I shall not argue with a petty guy like you. When I find the treasures that can interest you, I'll exchange them for your arts of refining elixir pills, answered Wang Xian shamelessly. After which, he changed the subject rapidly. Let's go. Old Sui, show me around the place. TSK. Not calling me an old man anymore? Old Sui, please. Chapter 307, Getting Something with Nothing, 1. Chapter 307, Getting Something with Nothing, 1. Sui Huang really lives up to his name. A sacred clan indeed. Impressive. Wang Xian saw Sui family's spiritual medicine garden in a cave and praised Sui Huang. The space before them was filled with various spiritual medicine, and most of them came with fire attribution. All of the spiritual grass was glistering, and all of it ranged from level 3 to level 5. Right in the middle was level 6 spiritual grass. All the different varieties added up to a few hundred tufts of spiritual grass in total with an inestimable value. Stop your bootlicking. Even if you do so, I'll not hand over my arts of refining elixir pills to you. Sui Huang snorted with eyes full of haughtiness. He remembered that this lad had exploded domineering oppression to compete with him when they first met. Obviously, Wang Xian had wanted to overwhelm him on their first encounter. Now he finally gained back some face. Haha. Wang Xian was not embarrassed at all despite the fact that his trick was discovered. He laughed. Didn't you ask me how I managed to raise my spiritual grass so easily the other time? This has got something to do with my physique and I'm a doctor. As Wang Xian spoke, he walked and put his hand in the garden. Read more chapter on novel full. All the spiritual grass was glowing with faint luster as it absorbed the immense azure dragon energy injected into the garden. Boo. Wang Xian pretended to be tired as he wiped the film of sweat he purged from his forehead. Then he smiled at old Sui. How is it? Look at the spiritual medicine garden. Don't you think their vitality has increased? That's true. Old Sui was taken aback as he looked at the spiritual medicine garden. The spiritual grass grew livelier after Wang Xian placed his hand in the garden. Even those that were dying came back to life completely. You're welcome. Wang Xian smiled and waved his hands. Old Sui's face turned black as soon as he heard him. Who wants to thank you? All right, it's almost time. Tonight's disciple acceptance ceremony will begin soon, said Old Sui to Wang Xian. Okay, I'll observe from the side and see how you guys hold the ceremony, Wang Xian said with a beaming face as he followed behind. Laozu. Great-grandfather. Grandfather. As soon as they walked out of the cave, they saw the descendants of Sui family walking toward the sacred mountain. They were slightly taken aback when they saw Sui Huang walking out. Immediately they bowed to him with respect. Okay. Sui Huang nodded and entered the same room that he had come out of just now. Sui family members gazed at Wang Xian with doubts. They did not understand why a young man was standing beside Laozu. Master. Guan Shuqing, who was waiting in the room, came out immediately as soon as Wang Xian and Sui Huang stepped in. Beautiful. Beautiful. Sui Huang looked at Guan Shuqing with a satisfied expression on his face and chuckled. Guan Shuqing was wearing some vintage wear that resembled those uniforms from before the 1950s. Her clothes were all black with a flower embroidered at the chest. On it was written, 2. This represented the second generation of Sui family, and also the disciple of Sui Huang. Sui family's uniforms looked the same except for the numbers at the chest to distinguish the generations. Yes, you're quite pretty. Wang Xian smiled at the side as the design of Sui family's uniform was beautiful. Let's go. It's almost time, Sui Huang said to them as he looked at the wall clock that was almost striking 5 p.m. Guan Shuqing nodded. The group of people followed Sui Huang to the mountain summit. There was a small square half the size of a stadium on the summit. It did not seem crowded even with more than 1,000 people standing there. On the summit were some tables with food. The dishes were simple, just like the home-cooked food of any ordinary families. Back in the center were 9 cauldrons. The one in the middle was the biggest, about 5 meters in size, with flames burning in it. It was surrounded by another 8 smaller cauldrons. The cauldron in the middle was known as the Emperor Cauldron. Starting from the north in a clockwise direction, the 8 cauldrons were known as Bao, Du, Song, Gang, Tong, Fu, Jing, and Kuei cauldrons. 9 cauldrons represented prosperity for the nation and family. This meant that Sui family would prosper forever. There was a central seat and 2 accompanying seats just below it at both sides. The 3 seats were empty at the moment. All the members of Sui family aged 5 and above were all present. They turned their attention to Sui Huang as soon as they arrived. Wang Xian, you shall sit beside me. Disciple, you shall stand at the center position. Sui Huang said to Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing. Allowing Wang Xian to take the accompanying seat was a form of recognition of his ability, as though he was on par with Sui Huang. Therefore he was fit to sit in that seat. The other accompanying seat was saved for today's main highlight, Guan Shuqing. Wang Xian and the rest nodded. Lan Qingyue and Xiao Yu took the seats at the furthest end. Following Sui Huang to the central position, Wang Xian smiled as he took the accompanying seat. Sui family members were surprised to see a young man sitting over there. All of them found it unbelievable. How could such a young fellow deserve to sit on that accompanying seat? What ability did he possess? All the second-generation members were seated below them. But since Laozu did not make any comment, the rest of the people did not dare to say a word. I'm sure you know why we're gathered here today. I, Sui Huang, have taken a new disciple. She will be my last disciple. Sui Huang stood up slowly as he overlooked everyone on the stage as he spoke. Wang Xian did not pay attention to the cumbersome ceremony procedures of the sacred clan. Instead he observed the people below him. The entire sacred clan Sui family's strength was gathered in this place. All the experts in the Sui family were present. 23 inborn experts. TSK. Sui family possesses quite a formidable strength. An alchemist indeed. He can nurture experts at a rapid speed. Wang Xian exclaimed. He recalled that the number of inborn experts that Flame Palace had, including those who joined at a later stage, was only about 16. A single Sui family already had 23 of them. With such a strong expert like Sui Huang around, the Flame Palace was never a match. The ceremony was usually cumbersome for ancient families. Kneeling and bowing, serving tea and paying respects took around 10 minutes. Okay, disciple. Come over. After the procedures, Sui Huang beckoned Guan Shuqing over with a beaming face. Yes, master. Guan Shuqing smiled and took a seat by his side. Congratulations to father for accepting an outstanding disciple. Junior sister, how are you? These are some gifts. I hope you like them. At this time, several elders who were sitting in front stood up on both sides. They bowed to Sui Huang and took out their gifts one by one. All of you have put in the effort. Xiaoqing, accept them. They should give you gifts. Chapter 308, Getting Something with Nothing, 2. Chapter 308, Getting Something with Nothing, 2. Yes, master. Guan Shuqing nodded her head. After which, she walked over and said, Thank you, Martial Senior Brothers, for your gifts. You're welcome. We will be one family in the future. If there's anything we can help you with, feel free to let us know. Several 90-plus-year-old elders replied with smiles. Although they were old, they were in the pink of health. This might be because they were all inborn experts. Junior sister, this is a defective flame ball. It's a shame that I can't find a complete one. I have been using it for more than 10 years and have little use for it now. I'd like to give this to junior sister as something you can use to protect yourself. Junior sister, this is the highest level elixir pill I can refine right now. It's a level 3 elixir pill and highly nourishing for a girl's skin. I don't know what kind of weapons junior sister uses. Therefore, I'd like to give this jade dagger to junior sister. A few old men took out their gifts and handed them over to Guan Shuqing. Thank you. Thank you, Martial Senior Brothers. Guan Shuqing thanked them immediately. You're welcome. I heard junior sister reached level 9 martial artist after just a month of cultivation. We are really embarrassed in comparison. You might just be able to reach the level of our father in the future. The 5 sons of Sui Huang exchanged pleasantries with Guan Shuqing. Clearly, they knew what the junior sister in front of them would become in the future. Thank you for all your gifts. I really like them. Guan Shuqing felt spoilt by the gifts she received. The gifts from them were truly valuable and she really fancied the gifts. Wang Xian stayed by the side and smiled. The people of the Sui family were generous and the gifts were all highly valuable. Read more chapter on novel full. It's been close to 10 years since I have gathered everyone here. The oldest of the 5th generation children are already 29 years old. Let me see the strength of these kids. Sui Huang looked plainly at the last row of disciples and shouted. Yes, Grandpa. 5th generation of the Sui family, step forward now. Show your strength to your Laozu. The current clan leader of the Sui family stood up and shouted at the crowd of 5th generation disciples. A group of young people and teenagers stood up immediately. Surprisingly, there were close to 100 of them. Lift the cauldron, shouted the clan leader. The group of young people and teenagers nodded their heads and stepped forward to the large cauldron in the middle of the room. Ah! A young man shouted as he grabbed a large cauldron. Expending all his strength, he lifted the large cauldron up. His face was flushed as a result. Ah, ah, ah. One after another, the young people and teenagers grabbed cauldrons of various sizes and lifted them up. Wang Xian noted that the weight of each cauldron was different. One could tell the strength of them by looking at the cauldron they lifted. Level 5, Level 6, Level 7, Level 8, Level 9. Wang Xian looked across inquisitively. Other than a young man who had managed to lift the Level 9 cauldron, the rest were all weaker than this level. It's pretty impressive for a 25-26-year-old young man to lift a Level 9 cauldron. However, for a Saint-class force that's not really acceptable, Wang Xian thought to himself. At this moment, Sui Huang, who was sitting in the middle, was clearly not very pleased. As the surrounding people noticed the displeasure on Sui Huang's face, they also started feeling a little fearful. The most outstanding disciple in this generation was Sui Ao, and we spent lots of resources on him. He has even reached the half-step to Inborn Realm. It's a shame that he courted his own demise. Seeing the displeasure on Sui Huang, the other members of the Sui family whispered softly among themselves. To be only at this level when they are in such a good environment and enjoying such great resources, it seems like this generation couldn't match the previous ones at all. Sui Huang gave his comments emotionlessly. Saying that this generation couldn't match previous generations was harsh but factual. Grandpa, this is my failure. It's all my fault. The current clan leader of Sui family immediately went on his knees and asked Sui Huang for forgiveness. Cold sweat covered his face. Please calm down, father, the group of old men immediately stood up and said. You guys must be getting more and more complacent and must have lost the drive from before. The most outstanding disciple actually gathered a group and behaved like a group of thugs against my disciple in the middle of the night. Who's the one that gives them the right to be so imperious? Sui Huang said plainly. All the other members of the Sui family felt their hearts skip a beat. The current generation of the Sui family was disappointing him. If their Laozu was angry, the whole Sui family would be shivering in fear. No one in the field even dared to breathe loudly, for fear of drawing the rage of their Laozu. Sui Huang's current aura. Hehe. Wang Xian showed a mouth of teeth as he smiled. He looked at the group of 100 people standing in the middle of the field. Suddenly, a thought struck him and he revealed a smile. Sui Huang, your Sui family has gotten worse by the generation. When I visited the newly crowned sacred sect, Flame Palace, a while back, they had 2 outstanding disciples who are on the outstanding young heroes chart. It appears that your family doesn't even have one. Wang Xian said with a mocking tone, and his voice resounded in the field. Everyone could hear him clearly. The surrounding crowd was taken aback and looked at Wang Xian in shock. They were furious but embarrassed. A young man said right in the face of their Laozu that the descendants of the Sui family were all trash. This was equivalent to openly mocking and criticizing them. It was especially so on this occasion. When Sui Huang heard Wang Xian, his face turned gloomy instantly. He also knew that his descendants weren't great at all. However, he didn't need an external person to point it out so blankly. Please choose your words carefully, young man. Our sacred clan isn't something that anyone can look down on. Comparing us with Flame Palace, who has been annihilated, you have gone overboard. Rascal. Apologize immediately. 2 old men from the 3rd generation of the Sui family looked solemnly at Wang Xian and demanded. Saying this in the face of the entire Sui family infuriated the members of Sui family, even though Wang Xian was sitting next to Sui Huang. The mentality of you guys isn't right. You should be ashamed instead of angry over what I've said. Perhaps you guys have lost yourself under the halo of the sacred clan. Wang Xian sat on the elevated platform and spoke to them in a tone as though he was educating them. Looking at how Wang Xian was behaving, all the other members of the Sui family felt embarrassed. Sui Huang, who was beside Wang Xian, also pulled a long face. What rights do you have to criticize us? What kind of strength do you have? A young man from the Sui family stood up and shouted angrily. That's right. What rights do you have? Another young man stood up and questioned Wang Xian bitterly. If it wasn't for Wang Xian being close to their Laozu, the inborn experts of the Sui family might have struck and annihilated him. Just 4 people? That's too few. Come. It's not that I'm looking down on you guys. All the 4th and 5th generation disciples step forward. I'll show you what qualifications I have to say that. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile. Shaking one of his legs while sipping on tea, he looked down on all of them as he spoke. His behavior was like suggesting everyone here was just trash in his eyes. His arrogant words and brazen expression immediately aroused the anger and fury of all members of the Sui family. Chapter 309, Succeed. Chapter 309, Succeed. Boom. You're tired of living. How dare you insult Sui family? As soon as Wang Xian finished his sentence, hundreds of disciples of all ages and generations stood up and glowered at Wang Xian. Lad, watch how you're talking. Who are you to speak to us like this? Apologize now or else. An outstanding middle-aged inborn expert stared at Wang Xian coldly as he spoke. Hundreds of Sui family's disciples exploded with immense heat as they gathered like a furnace trying to melt Wang Xian away. Just two inborn experts. Wang Xian shook his head slowly and took a sip of tea before he placed it on the table. Roar. A soft dragon bellow came from Wang Xian's mouth. Subsequently, he spat out a dragon ball. Roar. Once the dragon ball came into sight, it turned into Fire Divine Dragon immediately. The 7-meter-long divine dragon dived towards the 4th and 5th generation of Sui family's disciples rapidly. Imposing demeanor and domineering oppression struck fear into all the people around the area. What? A second-generation old man from Sui family was aghast as soon as he saw the domineering oppression exploded from the Fire Divine Dragon. He quickly stood up and faced the Fire Divine Dragon. Her? Wang Xian frowned slightly as he looked at the old man. Sit down. As Wang Xian shouted softly, the old man who was about to stand up, grimaced. His body was trembling violently. He turned his head with disbelief as he gazed at Wang Xian with astonishment. The rest of Sui Huang's sons who were around were also shocked as they looked at Wang Xian. A soft bellow and the imposing demeanor that was exuded was able to trap their leader. They were dumbfounded by the domineering strength. They swallowed saliva in disbelief. Could it be? They looked at Wang Xian in horror and then back at their father again. At this point, Sui Huang was knitting his eyebrows at Wang Xian. He could not make sense of what Wang Xian was doing. But Sui Huang did not make any comment as he, too, realized that the Sui family members had such a good life that they had forgotten to stay vigilant. Roar. Just then, the Fire Divine Dragon arrived above the 4th and 5th generations of Sui family in the field. Daunting dragon power encompassed them over their heads, and the blazing flames struck fear on their faces. That's scary. A 5th-generation disciple was appalled as he quickly fled to a far distance. Divine Dragon, this is the legendary Divine Dragon. More disciples collapsed immediately onto the ground as they were aghast. Roar. Another dragon roar was heard. 500 to 600 4th and 5th generation disciples let out a sharp and painful shriek as intense flames swept across. Most of the disciples of different ages were injured as fear crawled all over their faces. They were crying in pain as they rolled on the floor. Only a handful of people, 5 or 6, stood below with determination as they gazed at the dragon in the sky with pale faces. Child, my child. Child, stop it. The elders from Sui family broke out heart-wrenching pleads. The situation turned chaotic on the sacred mountain of Sui family. Yet, not only Sui Huang, but the 2nd and 3rd generation elders also darkened their expressions upon seeing such a situation. They were not furious at Wang Xian, who had made a joke out of their descendants. Instead, they were outraged by the performance of their younger generations. Coward, coward. A 2nd generation old man of Sui family gritted his teeth. He lowered his head with shame. Sui family's clan leader was so ashamed that he shook his head. Sigh. Just then Wang Xian let out a sigh on the stage. He was looking upset as he took out 6 glowing beads slowly from his arms. 6 of them were giving off a mixture of sapphire and red glow, which made them look creepy. Sui Huang was astonished as he stared at the 6 beads in Wang Xian's hand. Old Sui, these are 6 meridians clearing beads which I obtained, almost at the expense of my life. Wang Xian pretended to be distressed as he spoke. With a swift movement, he appeared in the center of Sacred Mountain. Only 6 people were standing in the square at this time, with 2 middle-aged men, young men, and juveniles each. Roar. The divine dragon above them let out a roar and enveloped them with 6 individual flames. They were the body-refining flame from body-refining spiritual flame balls. Painful looks were left on the 6 faces as the flames were injected into their bodies. The 6 beads that were glowing in a mixture of sapphire and red colors in Wang Xian's palm went directly into their mouths. Bam bam bam. Wang Xian walked to a middle-aged man and jerked his arm. He injected a gust of dragon energy into the middle-aged man and unblocked his last conception vessel and governing vessel. Boom. An immense inborn power came from him. Subsequently, Wang Xian swung his arm and came to another middle-aged man and repeat his actions. Boom. Another inborn oppression was felt. At this time, those Sui family members who had been screaming in pain on the floor, or had been distressed over the scene, were stupefied. All of them watched in shock at what had just happened. This. 2 middle-aged half-step to inborn experts had stepped up to inborn realm. At this time Wang Xian did not stop. He came to the remaining young men and juveniles and repeated what he had just did. My meridians have all been unblocked. An excited voice came from a young girl who was the only female standing in the field. She looked to be at most 19. She was trembling with joy as she sensed the changes in her body. Mine too. I have made a breakthrough to half-step to inborn. Another young man was exclaiming excitedly at the top of his lungs too. All 8 extraordinary meridians have been unblocked? Made it directly to half-step to inborn? All the people around were stunned by the 6 persons as they looked shocked on their faces. Everyone slowly turned their attention to that young man who had a casual smile as if nothing in the world bothered him. Wang Xian smiled as he swung his arm. A gust of azure dragons seeped into the bodies that were lying around on the floor, whose injuries recovered swiftly. In a move, Wang Xian leaped to his seat, picked up the teacup on the side and took a sip. We recovered from our injuries. Yes, that's true. What amazing medical skills. Those people who picked themselves up from the ground were shocked as they observed their bodies. Suddenly, a young man muttered, "We seem to have missed an opportunity." All of them were stunned as they quickly spun around and looked at the 6 people. Only they had persisted up to the very end. Now their 8 extraordinary meridians were all unblocked. This was the opportunity, a big opportunity. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. The 2nd and 3rd generations of Sui family quickly stood up from their table and greeted respectfully. They were no longer enraged or infuriated as before, instead showing a high level of respect for this young man since he had done so much for the good of Sui family. Chapter 310 Spiritual Island on the Sea. Chapter 310 Spiritual Island on the Sea. Thank you, young master, for your kindness. Beside the cauldron, the 6 disciples of Sui family, whose 8 extraordinary meridians had been cleared by Wang Xian, kneeled on the floor respectfully and expressed their gratitude. Around them, after seeing their seniors had stood up to thank Wang Xian, the other members knew that they had to do the same. Therefore, they stood up one after another and said loudly, "Thank you, young master, for your kindness." Wang Xian, who was sitting beside Sui Huang, waved his hand plainly. Following which, he turned to Sui Huang and said, "Old Sui, those are meridian-clearing beads that I went through great lengths and dangers to get." All right. I know what you are after, rascal." Sui Huang gave him a glare before continuing, "Follow me back after this. I'll let you take a look at the arts of refining elixir pills." "Thank you, old Sui." Wang Xian smiled as he'd gotten something he wanted without giving up anything. No, he did give up something. Other than putting up a show, he exhausted some dragon energy. Wang Xian was thrilled. By showing kindness to the Sui family in this manner, Sui Huang wouldn't be stingy considering his personality. After all, he had increased the numbers of inborn experts in Sui family by 6. This wasn't a small gift. "Alright, I believe you guys have seen the problem today. I don't wish to see this again." Sui Huang instructed the members of the Sui family. The performance of the 4th and 5th generation of the Sui family was really terrible. This had infuriated Sui Huang. However, the gift Wang Xian took out was indeed able to make up for some of these weaknesses. This was also the reason why Sui Huang agreed directly to allow Wang Xian to take a look at the arts of refining elixir pills. "Who's the young man with our Laozu? He's really incredible. The ball he spat out from his mouth could actually turn into a divine dragon that even inborn experts couldn't withstand. The ability to heal the injuries on everyone with a wave of his hand is really amazing. If he can sit beside our Laozu, he must be at the same level as our Laozu." "At the same level? Oh gosh. He's so young and yet he's already at the same level as our Laozu? Unbelievable superpower. That's what a real expert is. As the ceremony ended, the group saw their Laozu leave with Wang Xian. The disciples of the Sui family were whispering fervently and were clearly in awe. Even the second generation of the Sui family had to look at the figure in fear and respect as they sighed. Wang Xian could hear the constant compliments and worship of the Sui family's disciples behind him. Subconsciously he revealed a faint smile. He followed behind Sui Huang and arrived at a cave enthusiastically. This is the book recording the arts of refining elixir pills. I'm only allowing you to read for a night. Within a cave, Sui Huang took out a simple-looking book made of parchment paper. On the parchment paper, dense ancient text was written all over. Luckily, what was comforting was that there were various papers slotted in between the parchment sheets. These were the explanations for the ancient text. All right. Thank you, old Sui. I'll give you a godly elixir pill after I refine them. Wang Xian laughed. After informing Guan Shuqing, Xiao Yu and the rest, he took up the arts of refining elixir pills and started going through them. Puff. I hope it works. Wang Xian took a deep breath. If he could extract dragon energy from spiritual medicine, he should be able to do the same for elixir pills. Going further based on what Sui Huang had explained, an elixir pill had 10 times the effects of spiritual medicine. That would mean that the dragon energy within the elixir pill was at least several times that of the spiritual grass. In that case, refining an elixir pill could also allow him to increase his strength level quickly. Furthermore, although he was able to raise Dragonians rapidly to the inborn realm, it would be extremely difficult for him to raise them to the Dan realm. Even if he wished to help, it wouldn't work. Therefore, if he could refine powerful elixir pills and if he had the ability to breed spiritual grass and medicine, he could raise the strength level of Dragonians to the Dan realm rapidly or even to a higher level. Wang Xian flipped through the arts of refining elixir pills slowly as he memorized each word on it. Ding. Grasped the arts of refining elixir pills. After 5 hours, the notification of the system sounded in his mind. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. Name Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, 7, dragon energy, 1963-421/10. 000. Superpower. Dominate marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of marine animals for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of cultivation. Divine dragon transformation. Arts of refining elixir pills. Alchemist apprentice. Refine all elixir pills in the world with the origin source flame. Wang Xian looked at his personal attributes through the system and noticed a new, arts of refining elixir pills, under his art of cultivation. Moreover, the introduction of his arts of refining elixir pills looked much stronger. Refine all elixir pills with the origin source flame. I wonder how strong the arts of refining elixir pills is. However, I'm just an alchemist apprentice at this moment. Should I try to refine some elixir pills? Level 3 elixir pills and below would not require an alchemy furnace to refine. However, it would still require a fire attribute cultivator. It's a shame that I do not have any spiritual grass or medicine with me currently. I'll find time to give this a try after I get back. Wang Xian thought to himself. The entire arts of refining elixir pills was written on 30 to 40 pages of parchment paper. Other than the first few pages which introduced the method of refining elixir pills, the rest were all elixir pill recipes. An elixir pill recipe was very important to an alchemist. Without an elixir pill recipe, it would be extremely difficult for one to refine elixir pills by self-discovery. Wang Xian looked through it for the entire night. Along the way he visualized the process. Finally, he had completely memorized all the contents on the parchment paper. Brother Wang Xian, how are you doing? The next morning, Sui Huang smiled radiantly as he walked into the cave and asked Wang Xian. Understood and digested completely. A Grandmaster Alchemist is about to surface in this world. Wang Xian smiled and answered Sui Huang in a joking manner. Oh, is that so? It seems like Brother Wang Xian's arts of refining elixir pills will be surpassing all that comes before you and you will soon rule the world with it. Sui Huang replied with a little sarcasm. Wang Xian smiled and handed the parchment book back to Sui Huang. We will be returning back home today. Old Sui, do you want to go back with us? I'll return tomorrow. I still have some family matters to handle. Sui Huang answered and shook his head. Wang Xian nodded his head, exchanged some casual words and left the cave. Young master. At this moment, Mo Qinglong came to him and reported, Young master, it's about the Dragonians. Oh, what's the matter? Wang Xian asked immediately. They had found the real culprit behind the incident of Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi previously. However, Wang Xian had instructed Mo Yuan to investigate the source instead of taking revenge immediately. One of our brothers found a piece of spiritual land on the sea, said Mo Qinglong enthusiastically. Spiritual land? Wang Xian was shocked and felt confused. Mo Shiwu found a well-hidden island in the sea. The island has dense spiritual energy on it. Based on his conjecture, it should be the remains of an ancient sect and there should still be treasures on it. However, the island was surrounded by strong marine animals guarding it. The island was also extremely mysterious. Mo Shiwu didn't find the island by himself. Those that were with him have already informed their families and sects. If that was really the ruins of a sect, there might be quite an amount of spiritual medicine in it. It might even have more spiritual treasures. Chapter 311, Patrolling Yaksha, 1. Chapter 311, Patrolling Yaksha, 1. The ruins of the ancient sect, is the spiritual island? Wang Xian wondered with a tinge of fervor. Since meeting the Sui family yesterday and having witnessed their possession of countless spiritual grasses and treasures, Wang Xian had realized his destitution. He had $2 billion cash on hand as capital. But he had since handed all of this to Lan Qingyue, in request that the Lan family help with the procurement of gold and silver. The construction of the Dragon Palace was 40% complete. Based on estimates, he predicted that the palace would be completed within 2 more months. Aside from these $2 billion, he possessed no treasures otherwise. He also paled in comparison to the Sui family when it came to forces and manpower. Currently, the Sui family had more than 20 inborn experts. Meanwhile, of the Dragonians in the Dragon sect, the only inborn experts were Mo Yuan and Mo Qinglong. Given their speed of cultivation, it would take another month before the remaining Dragonians could set foot in the inborn realm. By then, the abilities of his forces would be rather prominent, with 50 inborn experts as his henchmen. The Dragon Palace will need upgrading after its completion, which means the consumption of resources will be even greater. I'd better prepare beforehand. Would be best if I had the means to earn spiritual stones in the long run, Wang Xian thought to himself. He would have to go all out for these ruins of the ancestral sect, given that he had way too few resources on hand. So much so that even a level 1 force was richer than him. Where's the spiritual island located? Let's head right over today. Wang Xian exclaimed to Mo Qinglong without the slightest hesitation. It's about 500 kilometers away from River Town in the open sea. Mo Qinglong replied. Young master, should we gather the Dragonians from the Dragon sect? Dragonians? That's not necessary. Wang Xian shook his head. Since the henchmen from the Dragon Palace are always standing by in combat mode, there was no need for the Dragonians when it came to ocean battles. Moreover, based on their current combat abilities, the Dragon Palace would, in fact, be far superior to the Dragon sect. Bring Mo Yuan along. The 3 of us shall rush over from River Town, Wang Xian said to Mo Qinglong. Yes, young master. Mo Qinglong nodded in response. Wang Xian came to the Sihiyuan and found Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, Xiaoyu and Elder Fang. He proceeded to inform them about the plan. Returning so soon? I plan to have fun for another 2 days. Xiaoyu whined. Here's the deal. Isn't winter break arriving around the corner? When it does, I'll take you out for some fun. Wang Xian pacified with a smile. Thereafter he purchased flight tickets and together, everyone made their way to River Town the same afternoon. At mid-afternoon, Wang Xian and the group arrived at the villa. Wang Xian boarded the yacht with embarrassment as Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue gazed in dismay. Young master will have to rush over at the soonest time possible. Mo Shiwu has reported sightings of 3 major forces gathering around Spiritual Island. Mo Yuan reminded Wang Xian. Yep. Wang nodded in acknowledgement. As he stood on the deck, his heart stirred. Shum shum shum. In the nearby waters, creatures surfaced one by one. As they emerged, they opened their eyes and gathered around a gigantic turtle. Follow the Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle commanded members of the Dragon Palace. As he did, he shook the mud off himself and opened his eyes slightly. Yes, Prime Minister Turtle. The members nodded in acknowledgement. The force was comprised of roving heavens, roving girl, roving lobster, and 9 venomous sea snakes. They were also followed by devil monkeys from the devil division, led by roving heavens. Together, the devilish creatures followed closely beneath the yacht as it pressed on. After a period of cultivation, all members of the Dragon Palace had undergone massive changes. The appearance of roving girl had become increasingly human-like. So much so that an outline of her nose and eyes formed and became more defined, with droplets lining their edges. As for roving lobster, its physical size grew up to 3 meters. It shimmered in a body of gold, while its 2 mammoth pincers added to its majestic air. Being the first 2 under Wang Xian's wing, the combat abilities of both roving girl and roving lobster had reached level 10. These 2 aside, the ones with the next most changes were the devil monkeys. Right now, scales had grown on the bodies of nearly 800 of them as they glowed in the flames of the devil dragon, while their claws and teeth sharpened by the day. Other than roving heavens, whose combat powers had reached level 11, 3 of the 800 devil monkeys had also hit level 10. The majority of the rest had also reached between level 8 and level 9. It would not be long before all devil monkeys could conquer ocean battles, armed with a level 10 prowess. The yacht soared ahead, making a dash for the open sea. Close to 7 hours later, Wang Xian and gang finally closed in on where Immortality was. Over here? Wang Xian asked with squinted eyes as he surveyed the area ahead. Just then, as it descended at the far end of the horizon, the last rays of the evening sun shone upon the sea surface. But Wang Xian soon discovered, to his astonishment, a thick fog surrounding the areas in front. And just up ahead, the misty fog continued to ascend. The ocean is a magical place, where mystical seas are filled with miraculous creatures. Wang Xian recalled reading a book. It introduced the oceans as vast seas which held secrets far exceeding man's imagination. For one, there was the most renowned Bermuda Triangle with its magnetic field. The fields were so unique they resulted in aircraft malfunctions and the sinking of ships. In addition, there was also the continent which had disappeared in history. The various mysteries which were yet to be unveiled. It's right ahead. Mo Shiwu is on a yacht over there. Mo Qinglong exclaimed as he pointed to a location on the left. Wang Xian gazed over. Up ahead, more than 20 yachts had docked in the seas, along with 2 huge fishing vessels. On the deck stood many martial artists, each staring at the fog ahead. Vaguely, an island appeared amidst the misty fog. Yet none of the ships around had dared to make a dash for the island, as if out of fear of something. As the yacht approached, the arrival of the group drew immediate attention from the nearby crowd. Huh. Some on board the other ships frowned as they looked over. It's my seniors. Mo Shiwu said to the rest of the crowd. He was on another yacht with more than a dozen on board. Are these the people you've gathered? We've made a pact. Everyone must go all out in order to make it inside. Otherwise, you are not qualified to enter the spiritual island. A young man said bluntly to Mo Shiwu. That's for sure. All based on merit. Mo Shiwu chirped as a smile lifted his face gently. In one move, he hopped onto the yacht which ferried Wang Xian and gang. Just those few? I'm afraid they're going to perish in the sea, the young man said indifferently while he looked at Mo Shiwu from behind. To which, another young man swept his gaze across the yacht which had just arrived. He then looked back at his ship, where the yacht flag bearing a Thunderbolt logo flew high. Mo Shiwu's a formidable one. His seniors are likely inborn experts not to be reckoned with. But regarding this spiritual island, the Lei family is bent on making it ours. He continued. It remains to be seen who will be the final one to make it inside. A group of young men sneered at the side. As Mo Shiwu leaped onto the yacht, he knelt down immediately to pay respects to Wang Xian. Dragon King, he greeted. How are things going right now? Wang Xian smiled in response and asked as he glanced at the fog ahead. Just then, a strange creature began to emerge briefly. With an elongated fishtail, it bore a grim face. It had a long front claw that resembled a 2-pronged fork, measuring about 3 meters long. A petrifying yet bizarre sea creature, perhaps. Chapter 312, Patrolling Yaksha, 1. Chapter 312, Patrolling Yaksha 1. Ooh. At this moment, that creature let out a howl that propagated several thousands of meters. What is that creature? Wang Xian asked Imo Wu as he looked at the vague silhouette of a marine animal within the mist. Dragon King, that's the patrolling Yaksha, a creature that existed in mythology. Imo Wu looked ahead and continued, according to records there were immortal islands in the past. Some of these immortal islands could move above the sea, some could hide themselves and some even had divine beasts guarding them. Patrolling Yaksha is a type of guardian beast in these records. They stationed themselves in a sea region and patrolled the surrounding waters. Their intelligence is extremely high and they possess horrifying strength. As Imo Wu spoke and looked at the patrolling Yaksha, his expression turned gloomy. Many patrolling Yakshas are surrounding this spiritual island. Their strength is horrifying. When they are in the seas, even inborn experts have to be careful. Moreover, based on my discovery, this island isn't ordinary. It could be moved. Although the movements aren't significant, there's no doubt that it could be shifted. Some experts estimate that this was a floating island. Floating island? Wang Xian was taken aback and revealed a shocked expression. Floating island? This wasn't an island that floats in the skies but on the surface of the seas. A stone would still sink when thrown into the sea. Yet, an island could actually float on the surface of the sea. That's truly magical. The entire island spans several dozens of kilometers. A cruise sank after trying to enter the white mist but was wrecked by the patrolling Yakshas around the island. The number of patrolling Yakshas wouldn't be less than 30. Imo Wu continued his introduction of the island. What's the situation now? It's going to be nighttime soon. What are they waiting for? Wang Xian looked at the sky before turning to the 20-odd ships a short distance from him. Based on what an expert has said, when night falls the surrounding white mist will disappear. Entering at night is far safer than trying to enter during the day. Imo Wu continued, when the moon rises and the white mist dissipates, all the ships will charge forward. At that time, occupying an area will be dependent on one's strength and luck. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. He looked to the patrolling Yaksha and a thought struck him suddenly. When you receive my order in a while, enter the spiritual island immediately. I'll go handle the patrolling Yakshas, Wang Xian said to them. He removed the watch from his wrist and dived into the sea. Yes, young master. Bam. When Wang Xian dived into the sea, he noticed the members of the Dragon Palace were hiding in the depths of the sea. He turned to his left and looked over. He saw several human figures within the sea and they were looking at the spiritual island. They must be water attribute cultivators, Wang Xian thought to himself. Therefore he did not turn into a dragon immediately and instead swam deeper towards the bottom of the sea. When he reached a depth of approximately 110 meters, night had fallen. Below the surface, it was completely dark. Looking down, one would feel that the seabed was within an abyss. However, day or night had no difference for Wang Xian considering his current strength. He swam and met up with the members of the Dragon Palace. After which, he stood on the Prime Minister Turtle. Greetings, Dragon King. The group of Dragon Palace members greeted him respectfully. Let's go. Wang Xian gestured for the Prime Minister Turtle to swim forward. Standing on the back of the Prime Minister Turtle, he looked at the spiritual island. Rumble. Prime Minister Turtle moved his huge body and swam slowly towards the seabed. Soon they entered the region that was previously shrouded in white mist. The moment he entered this region, Wang Xian instantly felt some marine animals staring at them. What horrifying senses! They discovered us the moment we entered this region. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked above him. From above, savage and fearsome patrolling Yakshas charged towards them one after another. There were a total of 10 patrolling Yakshas and the largest of them all was approximately 4 meters. One of their arms resembled powerful weapons and was even longer than their bodies. Water flowed rapidly past their bodies. Ooh. Scram. A cry sounded. From the cry, Wang Xian understood that they were asking him to scram. 10 patrolling Yakshas stood in a row. Savageness gleamed in their eyes as they stared at Wang Xian and the group without fear. Patrolling Yaksha, Level 9. Extractable Dragon Energy, 38,756. Patrolling Yaksha, Level 10. Extractable Dragon Energy, 155,434. A Level 10 and 9 Level 9 Patrolling Yakshas. Wang Xian showed contempt on his face as he stood on the back of Prime Minister Turtle, looking down on the patrolling Yakshas. Let us into the island or die. Rumble. As Wang Xian spoke, Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Heavens and other members of the Dragon Palace stared harshly at the patrolling Yaksha ahead of them. From them, horrifying vibes started emanating. Everyone is forbidden from entering. The 10 patrolling Yakshas did not back off. At this moment, one of the patrolling Yakshas drew a conch out suddenly. Hoo-hoo-hoo. A faint but rapid voice sounded and propagated several kilometers through the sea. One could even hear it from the surface of the sea. What's that sound? On the sea surface, the crowd heard the rapid voices on their ships and were baffled. Look. The patrolling Yakshas within the white mist have disappeared. They have dived into the sea. Patrolling Yakshas are highly intelligent. Can it be that they knew we would be charging in and therefore are thinking of ambushing us? The crowd was doubtful and turned solemn. At this moment, the moon had risen. Faint moonlight shrouded the sea surface, revealing the mysterious spiritual island gradually. With their enhanced sight as martial artists, they could vaguely see an exceptionally beautiful island bristling with life that was surfacing on the sea surface. All of their eyes were burning with thrill and desire. Nonetheless, they didn't dare to charge forward at this moment. At this very moment, approximately 100 patrolling Yakshas had gathered in front of Wang Xian below the sea. At the forefront was a 6-meter-tall patrolling Yaksha. His arms acted like powerful weapons. When he stood up, one could see he had a long fishtail. Water flowed above his arms as horrifying vibes were emitted from it. Get out of here or die, the powerful patrolling Yaksha at the forefront glowered at Wang Xian and said. Wang Xian smiled and looked at the crowd of patrolling Yakshas. Among them there were 10 level 10 while the rest were level 9. Patrolling Yakshas. Not bad, not bad. Wang Xian scanned across the 100 patrolling Yakshas as he rubbed his chin. Based on mythology, patrolling Yakshas were responsible for patrolling the vicinity of the Dragon Palace. Since the Dragon Palace was about to be built, these patrolling Yakshas appeared at the right time as they could become the patrolling guards for the Dragon Palace. No. When I build my Dragon Palace they should be called Patrolling Dragon Sha. The name still sounds a little weird. Surrender or die. Chapter 313 Yaksha Subdued, Off to the Spiritual Island. Chapter 313, Yaksha Subdued, Off to the Spiritual Island. As Wang Xian's voice blasted through the sea, an overwhelming aura of dragon power buried the crowd of Yakshas beneath. Powerful forces from Roving Heavens, Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Girl, and Roving Lobster aided in the overwhelming aura. Scram or perish, the centermost Yaksha warned. Waving its weapon-like arm, the Yaksha carried forth a powerful surge of water and aimed it straight at Wang Xian and gang. The Yaksha showed not the slightest fear towards them. Scram or perish, the Yaksha warned again. In synchronized movements, the remaining Yakshas and their leader aimed the weapons in their arms directly towards Wang Xian and gang. With actions so uniform they could pass off as an army. Good. Splendid. Wang Xian complimented. Admiring their discipline, he looked on at the Yakshas with increasing satisfaction. As he did, he swung an arm and ordered, "Get a hold on them before subduing them all." "At your command, Dragon King," replied Roving Heavens along with the rest of the Dragon Palace members. With an electrifying aura, they lunged directly at the Yakshas. Wang Xian had no regard for the Yakshas, even with the presence of a level 11 expert amongst their group of 100. Based on the current abilities of the Dragon Palace members, the Devil Division led by Roving Heavens along with the 9 venomous sea snakes would suffice in wiping the Yakshas out. Intruders shall die, the Yakshas roared once again in unison. With knife-like coordination they attacked Roving Heavens and the gang head-on. Ha! The group of Yakshas jeered as they swung their arm weapons at the same moment. A water swirl formed atop the forks on their arms and spiraled at frightening speeds. Virum. Roving Heavens let out a roar. With a baton in hand, he charged at the level 11 Yaksha standing at the center in a bid to attack. Bam. Unfazed, the Yaksha struck back at Roving Heavens head-on with his weapon-like arms. Ak, screeched the crowd of devil monkeys. As they maneuvered underwater, darting like bouts of devil shadows, they seized at the 100 or so Yakshas. But the Yakshas responded with neither panic nor confusion. Instead, they stood single file like experienced warriors and extended their arm-like weapons. Boom. A terrifying force from their weapons surged like massive currents and headed straight for the devil monkeys. They condensed the flows into a mass, and as the sea waters tumbled, a sea spear was formed. As it emerged, it struck at the devil monkeys like an impending crisis. Water veil. Restore peace to the seas. A spirited voice commanded. It was Queen Clam. As she flapped the shells on her sides and swung her arms, streaks of blue water flow gathered in front of the devil monkeys. Her shell was slowly turning sapphire, and it appeared more translucent than before. Let there be calm seas and fair winds, the 9 venomous sea snakes ordered. Rattling their tails, they opened their 9 mouths wide. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew amidst the ocean and surged towards the waves which were crashing toward the devil monkeys. Swoosh! Together, the water veil and powerful gale managed to combat the attacks by the Yakshas. But even so, the facial expressions on the 100-odd Yakshas remained constant. Under the leader's command, the Yakshas initiated another attack, with the group changing stance in one swift movement. Brandishing their weapons and aided by a strong force from the waters, the Yakshas charged forth at roving heavens and the devil monkeys. In one sweep, the force glided through the seas. Like a giant halberd, it scoured through everything in its path. Such a powerful attack. To think that 100 Yakshas can make defense this hard for the devil division, Wang Xian uttered in shock as he continued watching the 100-odd Yakshas. The Yakshas had attacked in a very synchronized manner. As they did, they induced the surrounding waters along to aid in attack. This heightened their terrifying prowess. With only a couple more level 10 experts than the devil division, the group of 100-odd Yakshas had curbed the attack of the division which had a strength of 800. Had it not been for the help from Queen Clam and 9 venomous sea snakes, many devil monkeys would have been seriously injured from the attack earlier. You have a death wish. Roving Heaven snarled. As he watched his suppressed juniors, he snapped in a grimace. Baring his fangs, his body lit up in appalling devil flames as he flung himself towards the Yakshas. Brr, brr, roar. The devil monkeys howled as the ferocity in them was ignited. Hair standing on end, they flashed their sharp claws and pounced along. TSK, TSK, TSK. Hissed the 9 venomous sea snakes nearby, slithering with increasing speed as they did. Staring coldly at 9 level 10 Yakshas with their eyes, they charged forth at them in a flash. With one leap, Roving Lobster joined in on the attack. Using both of its giant pincers, it snipped away at the Yakshas. All manpower from the Dragon Palace was out in full force. In an instant, the surrounding seas cowered under the majestic awe of the divine dragon. Schools of fish nearby swam far away, scrambling for safety. As they cleared the area, the sea appeared all the more vast and deep, which added on to the spookiness. What's happening? Why are there bouts of terrifying forces surging from the sea? It's giving me the shudders. One shrieked. Such threatening force. What exactly is happening up front? Another quivered. Didn't they say that this is the historical site of a level 1 ancient sect? Why would there be waves of such terrifying forces otherwise? A third gulped. On the boats and surrounding waters, all people on board cast their glance towards the waters. With the horrendous force surging and the irregular waves, it set everyone out in fear and trepidation. On the deck of a large fishing vessel stood several elders. As they looked down at the seas, their eyes began to fill with dread. To think that a tidal wave had reversed in direction. This tremendous force is no doubt terrifying. As for the creature beneath, it must be from the Dan realm at the very least. The ocean, how appalling. An elder shook with a heavy look. What should we do then? Are we still vying for this spiritual island? Don't forget that this is an ancient first-class island we're looking at. Who knows, the spiritual medicine from its garden could even be on par with those from spiritual medicine gardens of the same class. Another elder reminded. With burning desire in his eyes he continued, what's more, given that this is a first-class force, they're bound to possess treasures. In ancient times all the sects and clans were either located within famous mountains and rivers, or on peninsula islands. Idolized by all as the land of the sacred. An ancient first-class force is now on par with a current sacred sect. Hence we cannot give this spiritual island up. Just wait a while longer. Another elder concluded. Despite the apprehension owing to the force surging from the deep waters, no one was willing to give up in the face of such an alluring spiritual island. Waiting in silence, they were all bidding for their opportunity. Young Master has given his orders. Charge! A voice shouted. Meanwhile, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and Mo Shiwu were on a yacht when they heard the command. Hearts raced and the trio locked eyes for a split moment before glancing ahead. With one leap they dashed for the spiritual island. Someone made their move, one shouted. Having a death wish. It's akin to courting doom. Such terrifying forces are coming from the seas. Yet they still dare to charge over. We'll see. They'll be killed by the marine creatures soon enough. A second mocked. It's Mo Shiwu and the gang he has called. This fellow fights pretty well, but it appears he's not very good with his intellect. The third commented. Just as well someone to help us lead the way, another bystander cheered. As the trio charged forward, the crowd looked on with astonishment, but continued nonetheless in anticipation. In moments, however, they were met with surprise and bewilderment as their faces dimmed. Ha! They managed faintly. With racing speed, the trio flew inside the island parameters, eventually landing on the island without the slightest impediment. Chapter 314, The Spiritual Island That Was Overrun by Monster. Chapter 314, The Spiritual Island That Was Overrun by Monster. They got in. They actually got in. How can this be? Where are the patrolling Yakshas? Why didn't the guarding animals under the sea surface appear? This is bad. Now that 3 men have entered, should we follow them in? At this moment, the 3 other forces that had gathered in the vicinity were stuck in a dilemma. 3 men had charged towards the spiritual island. In the end, they were able to get in easily without any obstruction. This embarrassed the other 3 forces. These 3 forces were all first-class forces. They were Lei family from Modu, Wind God sect from Dafeng Mountain and Water Separation Island from the Sea Islands. When they saw Mo Qinglong and the other 2 men enter the spiritual island, they were bitter and furious. We can't continue to wait like this. Otherwise all the good stuff will be taken away by those 3 people. We have to get through too. On a huge fishing boat, several old men's eyes shimmered. In that case, who will test it out first? Another old man seemed conflicted. He looked down at the sea surface and still felt heart-wrenching powers from the bottom of the sea. Since the 3 of them got through without any trouble, we shouldn't be in danger either. Elders, we can first test it out with a yacht. If the yacht isn't wrecked, we will not be in any danger, said a middle-aged man while frowning. Under such circumstances, no one had the guts to charge forward despite seeing others entering the spiritual island. Try it out immediately, the old man from Lei family ordered. Subsequently, a yacht charged towards the spiritual island. When the other 2 forces saw it, they frowned. They were also waiting. Once their safety could be verified, they would charge ahead immediately. Charge. When the yacht reached the spiritual island, the surrounding crowd could no longer hold back their urge as they charged rapidly towards the spiritual island. In an instant, a few hundred men flew over directly. At this very moment, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and Mo Shiwu, who had entered the spiritual island first, were carefully observing the ruins of an ancient sect. All of them were shocked. White flowers were grown around the entire spiritual island, and these flowers were producing a faint mist. The surrounding white mist had all originated from these flowers. The entire spiritual island was beautiful. However, weeds had overrun some places as no humans had lived on it for a long time. On a stone path, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and Mo Shiwu looked in shock at what was before them. A footprint. It was a huge footprint that was approximately 4 meters long and was deeply imprinted on the ground. What kind of animal would have left this footprint? How can it be so horrifying? Mo Qinglong and the group looked ahead and discovered other huge footprints that were all around the entire spiritual island. Around the footprints were several sets of human remains. Some had decomposed, leaving only bones behind. Many of these bones had cracked. It was clear that this was caused by huge physical impacts. Can it be that this spiritual island on the sea encountered an attack by terrifying animals in the sea, leading to the annihilation of the entire sect? The 3 of them were baffled. They looked to the side and found several collapsed brick houses around them. Some were even more than 50% destroyed. It was clear that these houses were knocked down by a terrifying animal. Mo Qinglong and the group turned their attention ahead. In the middle of the island there was a huge training ground. Before the training ground was a row of buildings. These buildings were 15 to 16 meters tall. However, even the tops of these buildings had large holes. Who would have expected the entire spiritual island to actually be wrecked by a horrifying animal in the sea? Mo Qinglong was shocked. He moved and approached the central region of the island rapidly. Based on common understanding, the central location was where most treasures were kept. Moreover, spiritual medicine gardens would typically be placed in the central region. Split up and search for treasures. Mo Qinglong instructed Mo Yuan and Mo Shiwu before diving towards a building. No one knew how long ago the sect on the spiritual island had been annihilated. All the buildings had clear signs of weathering. When they entered the room, they immediately started searching it. This is a depository of books. All the books here are really precious and valuable. Mo Qinglong scanned across the room. After which, he headed for another room. A depository of books wasn't particularly useful for them. This must be the accommodation of the higher management of the sect. Mo Qinglong entered another room. After looking around, he immediately started searching the room. At this moment, Mo Yuan shouted, "Master, the spiritual medicine garden is here." Mo Qinglong moved and charged over immediately. Spiritual medicine gardens typically contain the most precious resources of a sect. The spiritual medicine garden was located at the back. At that place there was a pond that spanned approximately a dozen mu. Within the pond and around the pond, various spiritual medicines were planted. Beside the spiritual medicine garden were several sets of remains. There were 4 huge footprints in the spiritual medicine garden. A substantial number of spiritual grasses were dead, but there were still several hundred tufts of spiritual grass that were still emitting spiritual energy. It was especially so for the huge lotus flower in the middle of the pond. The lotus flower was the size of a basin. Amidst the darkness of the night, it was still glowing in white light. The middle of the lotus flower was an entirely white lotus seed pod with countless lotus seeds in it. One could easily tell that the lotus flower, lotus seed pod and lotus seeds weren't ordinary. Mo Qinglong looked across the spiritual medicine garden and his eyes lit up. Plucking these spiritual medicines away will be a waste. The best option is to let them continue growing here before plucking their fruits. Mo Qinglong looked around him. The most precious of them all should be the white lotus flower in the middle of the pond and a spiritual tree beside it. That spiritual tree had already reached a height of 6 to 7 meters. Based on Mo Qinglong's understanding, this spiritual tree was known as green fruit tree. This spiritual tree should have reached level 5 or 6. Therefore, it shouldn't be called a spiritual medicine but a spiritual tree instead. Other than that, there were at least 50 to 60 tufts of level 4 and 5 spiritual grass and over 100 tufts of level 3 and below spiritual grass. Perhaps it was because this spiritual island had been deserted for 5 to 600 years or for an even longer time. With no one harvesting these spiritual grasses, there were a lot of them around. The value of these spiritual grasses alone is astronomical. Mo Qinglong and the group thought to themselves. I found it first. Get lost. I held it in my hands first. Scram or I'll kill you. Do you think my lay family is afraid of your water separation island? At this moment, noises came from behind them. Several hundred people from Water Separation Island, Lay family, and the Wind God sect had dashed over. The quiet spiritual island became raucous instantly. Although they were shocked by the humongous footprints that were left behind, they were getting frenzied over the treasures they were seeing. The spiritual medicine garden is here. At this moment, a few young men dashed over. Seeing the spiritual grass in front of Mo Qinglong and the group, they were thrilled. Chapter 3:15 Joining Forces. Chapter 3:15 Joining Forces. The spiritual medicine garden is here, a voice boomed. As it sounded across the entire spiritual island, all bickering and commotion elsewhere came to a standstill. In an instant, figures could be seen darting over at electrifying speeds. Across the sky, 9 inborn experts soared through the air. When they saw the various treasures in the spiritual medicine garden, their eyes blazed with desire. With a shrug, they hopped onto the fringes of the garden. A level 6 spiritual medicine, goodness. To think it's the level 6 White Valley Lotus. Ah! A ripe White Valley Lotus. One exclaimed in elation. A green fruit tree. Such a level 6 tree can produce 6 level 5 spiritual fruits in a year. While the overripened fruits have fallen and turned into compost. Another said excitedly. Dozens of level 5 spiritual grasses and plenty more of those of level 3 to 4. a third cheered. A crazed look swept across the 9 inborn experts. As they scanned their surroundings, their cold stares were overcome by burning desire at the sight of the spiritual medicine aplenty. Should they be able to obtain these spiritual medicine, it would no doubt double the prowess of their clans right away. What's more, they may even attain sacred sect status given long-term cultivation of this entire plot, but only if they could possess it. This was especially so, as this spiritual island happened to be a rare floating island. This meant that the island was able to move along the ocean, making it an ideal spiritual land. In addition, there were white flowers growing along the perimeters which emitted a misty fog. Aside from camouflaging effects, the flora could also help gather spiritual energy. Amidst the oceans, this piece of land was surrounded by unpolluted air. Hence its concentration of spiritual energy definitely outweighed those from the cities. The inborn experts pondered as their eyes twinkled. Meanwhile, disciples of the various forces gathered behind their clan experts, keeping a vigilant watch over the surroundings. In the brief fight earlier, some of these disciples had already sustained injuries. To compete based on merits? A middle-aged elder asked blandly. With a glum face, he cast his glance towards the 6 inborn experts from the Lei family and Water Separation Island. To which the inborn experts kept mum, as they continued eyeing each other in order to assess one another's abilities. The strengths of the Lei family, Water Separation Island, and Wind God sect were neck and neck. This time around, each of them was represented by 3 inborn experts. Perhaps variations existed between individual inborn experts. Yet should they really start fighting, the outcome remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: some of them would perish. The 9 inborn experts continued to observe each other, and in an instant, tension filled the atmosphere. Meanwhile, the disciples crowding behind gripped their weapons with a heavy look. A fight could break out any moment now. I don't think it would do any of us any good should we start battling it out now. Unless any of you are confident in annihilating the other party. Otherwise, it's bad news to all, even if only one should escape. An elder from Water Separation Island chipped in as he surveyed the 6 inborn experts. When the 3-leveled forces really started fighting, it would not be surprising should they end up with a Pyrrhic victory. Whereas if only one party should win marginally and should information about the spiritual island be divulged, then they would be bound to be attacked by other sects and clans. Who knows, they may even face being seized by sacred sects. All this for one floating island, given its high value. In fact, it was so superior it could make a good sect ground. Giving thought to his analysis, the inborn experts from the Lei family and Wind God sect agreed with the elder from Water Separation Island. An equal division then? An elder from the Lei family asked as he squinted, testing the reaction of others. How are we going to do that? This floating island is one huge gem. Smiling, the elder from Water Separation Island replied, How about this? We from the Water Separation Island will take the floating island alone, while you can have everything else. Wishful thinking, an elder from the Lei family snapped. The worth of the entire floating island was no less than the spiritual medicine garden, the secret manual it held, and the like combined. Just then the elder from Water Separation Island who spoke earlier uttered, Ever thought of establishing a Saint-class force? As he finished, the inborn experts from Wind God sect and Lei family could not help but flinch. They took one look at the crowd around them before turning towards the spiritual grass which was nestled in the garden, and breathed somewhat heavily. Should the 3 parties join forces and give it a little more than a decade, they could really end up setting a Saint-class force for all we know. A sacred sect. One immensely massive entity. But to have 3 forces coming together to set up one sacred sect is a huge matter, where interests are complicated and stakes are high. It would take days to sort everything out. What we'll have to do now is to hide this spiritual island, to keep it away from the other forces. As for its allocation, the 3 forces shall discuss it thereafter. An elder from the Lei family suggested steadily. All right, one nodded. Agreed, another seconded the thought. Instead of fighting and vying ourselves to our deaths, we might as well join forces. The 9 inborn experts laughed. To them this was the best choice possible. Gentlemen, it appears that you've yet to ask for our take, Mo Qinglong interrupted. He was with Mo Yuan and Mo Shiwu meanwhile. As he spoke, the trio frowned and scanned the crowd. Oops, we've forgotten about the few outsiders. An elder joked as he surveyed the trio. Outsiders? We made a pact back then. To inform the forces that joined later, and split the share of this spiritual island. Sherwu rebuked while peering at a few young men from the three forces. True enough. We've indeed made a pact. To vie for the treasures based on our own merits. A voice argued. That's right. And the treasures are right here. Take them with you if you've got what it takes. Another challenged. Sherwu, if you've got what it takes, you may take all the treasures here with you right away. But if you don't, a third gloated. Thereafter, several young men from each of the three forces stepped out and smirked as they eyed Sherwu. Show us what you've got. Otherwise you're not fit to get an equal share of the treasures as us. A young man provoked once again, this time annoying Sherwu. You ingrates. Had I not rescued the few of you at the start, you fellows would have died at the hands of the Yakshas long ago. Sherwu snapped as he glared at them. Humph, weren't you also protecting yourself by saving us? Don't take the moral high ground. A young man criticized as he stared right back. Folks, how would you suggest we handle these three? An elder of the Lei family asked the inborn expert sarcastically. Vying for the treasures with us leaves us with no choice but to strike, an elder announced as he stepped forward with a faint grin. Gradually, three experts from the Lei family and Water Separation Island began to follow suit. They had their eyes fixed on Qinglong and gang with a deathly stare. To which Qinglong and the gang responded with a burdened look. Chapter 316, The Roar of the Devil Monkey. Chapter 316, The Roar of the Devil Monkey. On the spiritual island, one inborn expert from Lei family, Water Separation Island and Wind God sect respectively stepped forward and looked at Qinglong, Yuan and Sherwu with contempt. They walked over slowly with their weapons in their hands, glowing in a chilling light. You guys must be courting death. Qinglong's eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at the three inborn experts walking towards them. Devilish aura started circling around his body. Yuan transformed his fingers into claws and stared at the approaching group harshly. Devilish cultivators. It seems like we are going to eradicate devils for the benefit of the world. An old man turned solemn after noticing the dense devilish aura being emitted from their bodies. Kill the three of them, an old man shouted. Subsequently, he jumped ahead and charged towards Qinglong, Yuan and Sherwu. The three inborn experts reached Qinglong and the group in an instant. The stifling pressure of an inborn expert was mixed with their dense killing intent. The three inborn experts had no plans to hide their aura and killing intent at all. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was on the seabed, did not know about the intense battle that was going on at the spiritual island. Wang Xian smiled faintly and looked ahead. In front of him, 100 patrolling Yakshas were pinned down on the floor with grave injuries under the attacks from the Devil Division, 9 venomous sea snakes, roving lobster and roving girl. Surrender to me or die. Wang Xian stood on the back of Prime Minister Turtle, shrouded his dragon power towards all the patrolling Yakshas and spoke coldly. I surrender. The leader of the patrolling Yakshas looked at Wang Xian and the group in horror. Gradually he lifted his head. Great. This will be the wisest choice you make in your lifetime. The Dragon Palace shall be separated into 9 divisions in the future. The Devil Division has since been established. Today I shall confer on you, leader of patrolling Yakshas, as the Dragon Guard Division. You shall patrol the 4 seas and guard the Dragon Palace. I shall also bestow upon you the name of Roving Yaksha. As Wang Xian spoke, he waved his hands. Drops of essence blood entered the patrolling Yakshas' heads as Wang Xian smiled. Devil Division was the main battle strength against the enemies. As for the Dragon Guard Division, they would be responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Dragon Palace and protecting it. Although there were only 100 patrolling Yakshas, the strength and battle prowess they demonstrated when they worked together were incomparably horrifying. Moreover, they could move extremely fast in the water. Even Wang Xian was astonished at their speed. In water, they possessed a speed that even the 9 venomous sea snakes couldn't match. However, if the 9 venomous sea snakes were above the sea surface, their speed would be a lot faster than it was in the seas. Thank you, Dragon King. Greetings, Dragon King. The leader of the patrolling Yakshas bowed down in a unique manner as he remarked. Greetings, Dragon King. The surrounding patrolling Yaksha followed, kneeling down respectfully as they remarked. This is the cultivation art for the water divine dragon. Cultivate diligently in the future. A thought was sent into their minds. Subsequently, Wang Xian looked at the floating island. Bring me to the bottom of the floating island to take a look. Wang Xian said to roving Yaksha immediately. Yes, Dragon King. After absorbing the essence blood of the divine dragon, a flash of energy beamed from the eyes of the roving Yaksha. The speed of water flowing on his body became even quicker. Dragon King, this is our old nest. We have been living under this island. After arriving at the side of the island, the roving Yaksha pointed to the bottom of the island. Wang Xian looked across inquisitively. The base of the floating island wasn't connected to the seabed. Moreover, a type of plant was growing on the bottom of the island. This plant was black in color, similar to the color of the patrolling Yakshas. They were densely packed and covered the entire bottom of the floating island. Moreover, this type of plant wasn't just a layer. Instead, there were several layers of them which formed empty spaces each layer. Wang Xian was surprised to see a 1-meter-tall Yaksha moving within these spaces. This is our nest and also our food. Roving Yaksha swam over, scraped a part of the plant using his weapon-like arm and handed it to Wang Xian. Wang Xian received it and realized it had strong buoyancy. So this plant is the reason why the island floats and can even move. Wang Xian was in awe of the mysterious things of the seas. There were all kinds of strange animals in the sea. If I convert this island to my accommodation, wouldn't it be? Wang Xian's eyes lit up. He just had to modify this floating island a little to convert it to a mobile base. In fact, he could even pull this floating island to the Bohai Sea. If he wished to go to other areas, he could also shift it to the Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean. A mobile fortress and base. Wang Xian's eyes burned with enthusiasm. You guys wait for me here. I'm going to take a look at the spiritual island. After finishing his words, Wang Xian moved and swam towards the spiritual island. As the ruins of an ancient sect, there should be lots of treasures on it. Moreover, he had informed Mo Qinglong and the group to search for treasures while he was under the water. Wang Xian believed they would have obtained lots of spiritual treasures by now. The rewards this time are indeed handsome. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile and arrived on the spiritual island. Rumble. TSK. How dare you guys injure our Lei family's people? Trying to grab these spiritual medicines and spiritual treasures with just the three of you? You guys must be courting death. However, he heard a furious roar that propagated through the entire spiritual island the moment he landed on shore. After which, the sounds of collision erupted. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and his expression turned cold. Cough cough. All of you shall die. A weak voice sounded. It was the voice of Mo Qinglong. Ah, kill us. We will kill you right now. A brazen voice sounded once again. Still thinking of getting the treasures? Wishful thinking. Even if you were a pinnacle-born expert, we would still kill you. It seems like someone can't wait to die. Murderous intent gleamed in Wang Xian's eyes. Based on what Mo Shiwu had said, all treasures found should be obtained through their respective strengths. This was the agreement for the split of treasures on the spiritual island. In Wang Xian's opinion, no one in the three forces would be a match for Mo Qinglong or Mo Yuan. Based on the voice of Mo Qinglong, he was clearly injured now. In that case, there was only one possibility. A group of people had attacked them together. Rumble. Wang Xian tapped lightly on the water surface. Roving Heavens immediately raised his head above the surface. Follow me. Roving Heavens gave his orders before jumping onto the shore of the spiritual island. Below him, 800 devil monkeys followed closely behind. They were like savage beasts from the bottom of the water as they surfaced from the seas. Every single one of them had an intense devilish flame emitting from their body. Roar. Roving Heavens walked beside Wang Xian and let out a cry. With his 6-meter-tall figure, he was a towering figure beside Wang Xian. He held a golden rod in his hand. Behind him, 800 devil monkeys jumped onto the shores of the spiritual island. The horrifying auras from them masked the moon in the sky. Let's go. Wang Xian stood up gradually. The group of devil monkeys spread out before charging forward rapidly with Wang Xian. Gur gur gur. As the devil monkeys growled, the entire spiritual island trembled. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.